to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. My co-host is Doran, the esports historian. Sam has had his 5G installed today, so he's going to press the buttons until he turns into a super mutant out of Fallout. How are you feeling, Sam? Second spike?
Fine, mate.
Fine?
Yeah,
Fine?
feel fine.
Fine.
I mean,
You're
I assume
actually
tomorrow
fixed
will
though, for
be the
real, by the
struggle.
way.
Yeah.
Is it actually
Yeah.
fixed for real now? That was just like a temporary thing.
That was ages ago, yeah. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear you're okay. I'm okay. Looking forward to doing another episode of the quintessential Counterstrike podcast and talking about things that everyone's going to say we're wrong about or lying about or our takes are stupid. And then in 3 weeks, they're all going to be true and accurate and right and rinse and repeat.
Oh, mate, when I
15 years.
When I woke up and saw that headline that was like, sources say Sonic might be leaving Australis, I could have just gone back to bed and laughed myself asleep, mate. It was mental. It's like, listen, Device has already left the team, boys. That's literally, that ship sailed. I've already told you, people like Glaive are being talked to by orgs that are better than Australis. And now your boy Sonic's leaving. Give me a break. At what point in time do the fans just en masse just surrender?
Well, what
say,
was
you
funny
win,
was
guys.
there was like one guy who's like a mad Astralis fanboy, and I won't like name him because apparently someone said he's only a kid. So it's like, well, you know, this is the other thing.
Is it though? But you know,
Yeah,
whatever,
well, look, mate, I don't know, mate. Maybe I was an asshole when I was a fucking teen. Who fucking knows, mate?
True.
Without the evil of social media to essentially record all of my teenage years, I'll have no way of ever gauging whether or not
you can
I
what
was.
You do, right? Yeah.
Maybe I was a moron and an
True.
arsehole, and maybe that's just par for the course. Or maybe, unlike morons and arseholes, I was special and super awesome and intelligent, and they're just plebs. Who really knows, Duncan? Who really knows? We'll never know because none of it was recorded. But anyway, you know, he was one of the guys who was basically saying, like, there's no way this is true. Richard Lewis is irresponsible in his journalism, didn't give Astralis a chance to reply, which, of course, they did reply, and certainly have a platform bigger than mine in many ways to put out and correct misinformation. Wink, wink. But anyway, you know, like in using anonymous sources, he should name the source, like the classic, you know. And anyway, he came out the other day, and fair enough that he woke up and he went, well, it looks like everything Duncan and Richard said was right. I just didn't want it to be true.
Oh, you know what? Fair play to this guy, because it's like I remember there was a classic similar example where there was a guy on Twitter, right, who just put all this annoying stuff. But then I went to his profile, and in his bio, he'd just written, "I am mentally ill," and I was like, you know what? Fair play to you, mate. If you're honest as that, I can deal with that. That's like sort of a consistency I can handle.
This 5G's fast as fuck. It said in his bio, yeah.
If at the end all you say is like, you know what? Actually, you were right. I just wanted it not to be true. Fair enough. That's a relationship I can understand.
Yeah, no, I can work with that, mate. I'm like you. I can work with that. And that's why, I'm not going to roast the kid and pull up his Twitter and all that. Plus, as well, I didn't even know he was a kid. And the reason I didn't know he was a kid, like a teenager, is because he's got a fucking bow tie on in his profile pic. And you know.
Just Tucker Carlson or something.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to, like, graduate through broadcast journalism and probably be about 40 years old before you can ever justify a fucking bow tie. So if you're wearing one in your teenage years, you've got bigger problems than Astralis filling your head with shit.
That already makes me actually start to feel like some pangs of sympathy for this guy, because I'm already thinking of the kind of teenager who affects to wear a bow tie in 21st century. Like, mate, he's already having a bad enough time in life.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, mate, obviously I'm not naming names. We don't roast teenagers on this fucking show. Everyone's allowed to be a moron when they're young. But yeah, fair play to him, you know, and hopefully he grows out of the bow tie phase as well. Best of luck to him. But we'll talk about Sonic in a little bit. Obviously, we'll talk about lots of things. But let's first of all thank our sponsors, our glorious sponsors. Hail the sponsors. .com. Been with them a long time. Great sponsor to have, doing loads of great content. Just retweeting a video today where they were interviewing players about, you know, how many hours do you need? A constant debate. So go watch that. There's some interesting perspectives there, because some people do believe less is more. More players, I would say, believe more is more. So go check them out and go .com/RLS to sign up if you haven't already. Helps us out. And obviously NordVPN. If you want to get up to 70% off a VPN, definitely worth having a VPN in this day and age. Make sure you go to nordvpn.com/RLS to get the benefit of that. Right, I don't even know where to start. It's a smorgasbord, mate. Today it's going to enable all of the classic material. I already felt it coming in, that even though I'm a little bit jaded and a little bit tired, a little bit sick of esports and certainly sick of CS, and it's got everything. It's got ESL with their marketing nonsense. It's got Navi winning a tournament, so all the fans becoming insufferable.
It's the bingo of by the numbers is getting checked like a motherfucker right now. Yeah,
He's retired. Zonic's leaving Astral. It's like, oh, there's so much. It's so delicious. So I hope you've brought your fucking A game. Right, okay. Well, fuck it then. Let's start with Kirby. Let's get that one out the way. So this is the news that incredibly, Kirby has retired from CSGO at 23 after the Hyenas project, which was essentially, players that were like cast-offs from North and hadn't made headway into the Danish scene and the international scene. That has completely collapsed, leaving AZ, Gade, Borup and Fessor in the free market as well. Kirby said, you know what? This free market ain't done me any fucking favors. I'm out. I'm out with the whole game. And obviously, he's been around a long time and he's achieved some great highs in his career. So you probably forget he's 23 and not like 27 or 28. Yep. So I thought, I know you've had a lot to say about Kirby down the years. So I thought you might want to pay tribute to one of your greatest foils.
Yeah, the thing I would say is, like, I actually think he is an example of a player that just shows how, in a sense, like, all sports are cruel, because ultimately it's like I always say it to like try and just be funny. I always say, like, my favorite thing about sports and esports by extension is that the game, or life as it were, doesn't know if you're actually a good person. So unlike other areas of life, like, you could be the biggest cunt of all time, but if you can hit an amazing 3-point shot, you'd probably be amazing at basketball. Like, the game doesn't care whether you're a good person or not. Well, in a similar sense though, the downside of that is it obviously means there are people, Kirby I would put in this group, so it always seemed like a pretty cool guy. Like, he had his head screwed on quite well. Yep. He's one of those rare players, by the way, where, for example, years and years ago, I did like a config style article about him and told him, like, you have to sort of step your game up and get to another level. I remember him even like publicly thanking me and just being like, this is something I, use as motivation. Like, he's a guy where if you like, just check all the personality boxes, always seemed like he would be like a very legit player, funnily enough, on an Astralis type team. For my money, I like the third best player, like he maybe was at one point in time. The problem is, he did have, this is why it's mad that he's only 23. It does feel like he's had like, what? Now it feels like at this point in time, we're talking like 3 or 4 years that were quite underwhelming. So unfortunately, I think because he had such a meteoric rise, it does feel like his career was sort of a waste or a failure. Even though actually, if I look back over his career, he won a major, he won a major MVP, won that fucking DreamHack Stockholm with North. By the way, he collected a lot of salary, did fucking very well out of it in that sense. It's just that I have to ultimately look at his career and say, the very fact that he's retiring is mad underwhelming. Like, I always thought a player like that would at least hang around in the scene. I'll even say as well, by the way, it's actually something of an indictment of the scene in general, because both that Hyenas project and whatever the fuck, I think Flushes was called Gorillas, like, both of those projects, which were all these big names, they all told me behind the scenes, don't worry, we've got someone lined up, and none of them have got orgs. Like, nobody's got fucking anything, mate. So I think they also have massively overshot where the industry is at, like a lot of people. So I find it kind of sad, because I know why people wanted Kirby to get a million chances like this FaZe chance, but it's, I'll even say, behind the scenes, he was also one of those players. I would always hear these stories that, like, for example, even at the end in FaZe, in the scrims, he drops 40 on you, but then for some reason it just doesn't happen in the official game, which, like, listen, I know that's a story as old as time in esports, but it's always sad when you hear it. I always say, the reason why, for most of my CSGO career, Device was my favourite player, is actually just because I thought it was super satisfying to watch this guy have obvious flaws in his career, but then overcome them and become the best player, win all the championship. Like, that's a super satisfying, like, sort of transformation to see someone undergo. So when people don't quite make it through like Kirby, it's a bit sad.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know we sort of had differing opinions about Kirby, because I think when he had the move to FaZe, I remember being very critical and saying this was like a bad pickup. I was like, yeah, wait and see. I was a bit more ambivalent about it. And actually, he started out terribly in FaZe. Initially, you were unquestionably correct. I mean, he looked very off the pace of Tier 1 Counterstrike. But what was interesting was after that first bad tournament, he did that tweet finally sort of seemed to have climbed down from his hubris. It was very config-esque, actually, where he was like, yeah, listen, you know, I've had all these mental problems, essentially, because I blew up too soon. I was in the best team in the world. I was the MVP in the best team in the world at the biggest tournament in the world, and that completely wrecked my mental game. It gave me almost like a sense of hubris that wasn't warranted, and I've really struggled to just do the bare bones of playing Counterstrike since then. He went back to the drawing board after that bad time with FaZe. I think he recognized it was last chance saloon. Famously, after they crashed out of a tournament, he wasn't with his teammates. He went straight on to deathmatch for like 4 hours. Like, he had a real fire lit under him. And then towards the end of his tenure and Nico's tenure in the team, he basically was like back to the best he'd been in a long time, put it that way. And so for him to then have the misfortune of Nico leaving to G2 and him finding himself essentially benched after he'd made that comeback, I feel unbelievably sorry for him. That is so demoralizing for a player. Sure. Because, as I said, it's last chance saloon. You've done everything and you've improved and you're playing well. But because of a set of circumstances beyond your control, i.e. a player controlling the roster leaving, you're back to square one. Not even square one. You're at square zero. You're in jail. And I really, really felt sorry for him. Now, I have got to say, I felt on the basis of what he did in FaZe at the end of his tenure, I don't think a retirement was warranted.
I don't think so either, mate. He definitely could still play if he wanted to. Come on.
Yeah. Well, look. So I'm going to tie it with something I was talking about the other day, because obviously OG failed to qualify for the main stage of Cologne. True. They crashed out in the play-in after losing to fucking Renegades. Listen, there's room for Kirby at that particular in my opinion. I know everyone's talking about Rops to OG being the dream move. That isn't going to happen because Rops has a fucking $1 million buyout.
Yes.
So that OG are not spending that. Kirby to OG, that's a move that I think actually improves that team. Might be rough on the player that goes out. It would probably be Flames. I know he's just joined. But for me, it's an upgrade. I don't know if you agree with that, but I certainly think Kirby, I don't know if this is like one of those fake esports retirements where you retire to get out of a contract for 6 months. You pull the old Brett Favre, or if it is a genuine retirement. And he said nothing about Valorant either,
that's
true. Which suggests that if it is a retirement, he's just done with esports at all. Yes. And I think that would be an absolute travesty. I think, for all we've memed on the guy down the years, the bottom line is, in the current state of play in the Counter-Strike landscape, there is room for Kirby on a number of teams, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. My problem with Kirby, by the way, was it was never the idea he was a bad player. The problem is that he understandably, in this context, was a major MVP, was an Astralis, was getting very well paid in North. It's just that he was supposed to be a top 20 player in the world, and that's the problem. He wasn't. I agree. Yeah. He could definitely be in a lot of tier 1 teams. Like, the OG one isn't even a terrible shout. I actually think they're an example of a team that, now that we're going back to LAN, they're in big fucking trouble. Because they weren't even that good online. People forget this. Yeah. They made their big roster moves, and it was maybe like a slight upgrade, and it marginally improved. I don't know. Like, if anything, the results got worse, like, relative to the peers. But I mean, in terms of how many good teams are, maybe they got slightly better, but they're not world beaters. And yeah, this result of Cologne's terrible. Like, I think that's an example of a team where, like, I don't have big aspirations they'll do much, because like you've just said there, I don't think they're going to spend big money, which you need to right now to get names. So I look at who they've got. It's like, it's an all right team. I still like some of the pieces, but there's no reason on LAN this team would ever make like a semi-final or something. Like, they're just all right, aren't they? So I would put it this way. I don't know if Kirby the person I'd pick, but I wouldn't hate it over some of those names. Because as you say, like, Flames has done fuck all in his career, super experienced. The Nico guy was obviously just brought in to be a role player. Like, someone has to be the star player, right? We've got to have some big fraggers here.
Well, someone needs to help Valde out over an OG. I mean, that's the reality. Like, he's doing everything right now. And I agree with your assessment in your recent tweet and recent comments about OG, that, they don't really have a star. I mean, obviously the star is Valde, but Valde is not meant to be a star in that traditional sense. He's a cultured, well-rounded jack of all trades that gives you an unbelievable solid foundation. If you put a star player on that, someone capable of carrying a game and fragging out, suddenly OG are worth talking about. But I think, whether Kirby could be that guy or not, who knows? But certainly, I think he's an overall upgrade. And that's just one of the teams I could think about. that he could maybe.
I even think it's a decent shout though, because your context there is accurate, which is that if they're not going to spend money, you've got to gamble on someone.
Yeah,
you've got to go for a Hail Mary, haven't you?
And look, let's also, I mean, we'll get into the Astralis stuff as well. Astralis is going to have to rebuild at some point. I imagine they're going to want to stay Danish. All of their infrastructure is Danish. All of their fan base is Danish. All of their experience in terms of their staff is Danish. So they're gonna need a Danish roster. The idea Astralis is going to go international seems to me patently absurd based on everything they've laid out. And so obviously, I mean, there is a way back for Kirby, because I think whatever team they rebuild, once Glaive goes, once Sipnix goes, once Sonic goes, they're already talking about Hunden maybe being the favourite replacement to go over there. You are going to be picking up the scraps of the Danish scene. The good news is those are the best scraps in the world, probably.
Of course. So that's actually the part I found surprising about the announcement that you retired, by the way, is my first thought was, worst case scenario if you're Astralis, the two players you pick up is Kirby and Esatag, just because of your former history with them, you know, exactly. And they both want a team. So, yeah, if anything, I thought it was a bit sort of...
The nine-home aspect to that relationship could be an interesting one, but if he's willing to bury the hatchet with Hunden, when he was like demanding he comes to the office and explain why they cheated against Astralis, predicated on little to no evidence that they did. Yeah. But, you know, maybe that's indicative that Nihome, we know he can be political, and a part of being political is being diplomatic at times, right?
Sure. But I mean, I would just say that Kirby actually like sort of jumping the gun on that when we all know that the future of Astralis is in the air. That's why I kind of side with what you said there, like that maybe this is just like he's just done being a pro altogether. Like there's no other game, no other. Maybe he's just sick of it. I mean, like I say, it's been a lot of years he's been doing the hard yards now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, let's also be real. I mean, it might just be like he's got enough money to have a very solid quality of life for the next 7 to 10 years. You know, maybe it's just a case of, some people, I know this is hard for people to believe, some people just fall out of love with the esports life. And certainly it's happened to a number of pros, some of which have stuck around, some of which have legitimately retired ahead of time and fucked off to go spend their money or do other things. It happens a lot in mainstream sports, you know. You'll see footballers that could have played to 36 and beyond go out in their early 30s. You'll see some people as well, you know, like they have maybe a health problem and they just think, I'm not going to work through this, actually. It's, you know, it's going to be too much work and it's not going to be as rewarding, because there's a number of sacrifices you have to make as a pro. In any discipline, and maybe Kirby's done with that, especially given the overall reward has been disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. You know, he probably in his mind, he thinks, you know, to have that high of, you know, the Atlanta Major and being the MVP and all of that, what comes afterwards probably wasn't worth it.
That's also a part of, I think that is mad underrated by fans, is like if you're gradually climbing the ladder, like you make top 16s, then you make one top 8, then you make the story still works in the movie. I agree though. If like I mean, off the top of my head, I'm gonna have to say, what was he, like 18, 19 when he won that MVP? It's only been downhill after that, and we're talking years and years. So like the occasional glimpse of that moment again, if anything, is going to be more frustrating, I'd say.
Yeah. What did you make of the Hyenas team overall? I mean, again, for me, I never know what these teams actually are or what their goal is, because, you know, if you call yourself Hyenas and you want it to be a brand, then there is no point in going out, getting a team of decent players, salarying them, having a logo made, trying to build up your socials, doing all that interaction, if basically there is no long-term plan. If your plan was essentially win the Flashpoint RMR, and then maybe we stick around, just don't bother. Like the esports economy and the esports landscape, especially in Counterstrike right now, there's no rewards for an org like that, and you're only going to end up out of pocket and probably end up owing players a ton of money, but you're going to have to break promises. It's just not worth the effort right now. And it's the same when like you said about Gorillas, the Flusher team earlier. It's like, do these guys have a long-term plan? I've heard it loads. Yeah, we've got sponsors lined up. You don't, or do you? Because let's be real, like, there are so many bullshit artists right now who will use you in the short term for a little bit of clout, to have the affiliation of being associated with these players. But there is no long-term solution. There's not a lot of money coming into Counter-Strike right now, let alone money to go to new, unestablished, and let's also be realistic about it, not particularly great brands.
No.
What, you know, why would I want to sponsor a team called Gorillas? Does it still have to be called Gorillas? You are spelling it the same way as the band. If we ever get popular, is there a potential intellectual property lawsuit there? Right? Hyenas are literal scavengers that feed off corpses. I'm sure when you put that team together, it was a joke about how you were picking the bones of the Danish scene or something like that. But moving forward, it's not a particularly great fucking brand, is it? You know, Goatsy Gaming. Who wants to sponsor that? Names matter, brands matter, and players, I don't know, they just never really get that.
They never get it. No, they're still doing that shit that they used to do. Sadly, even in pro play and early CSGO, where, you know, they'd all like tag on the actual servers some stupid fake nick they use in like CSDM or something. But they'd be doing it in like pro games. Like Fnatic players would have like the wrong fucking name on. So you'd even have like rookie casters and were just getting torn apart because they said like, you know, the fucking wrong name of some envious player or something who just didn't put his real alias on. So no, I agree. The branding element's ass. Like, it just shows that players to this day still think that all they have to do is bash buttons in the game and then they just question mark, question mark, question mark. I have a job and enormous salary. Like, they have no idea how the industry works. But I also think this project, listen, at least the Flusher one was like some semi-eligible players. Like, Flusher's obviously a super legendary player. Sonny. Automatic was very good. Sonny, everyone thinks is going to be, yeah, no, these players would have made sense. The Hyenas project, it really was just like, here are some of the not that good players that have been in like Heroic and North the last 2 years with none of the pieces you'd want, like, you know, an MSL, Acadian, any of the other fucking players. And we made them all into one team. Do you want to sign us? No, unsurprisingly. Because guess what, by the way? If I'd have wanted to sign you, I know North, the org, was selling the pieces, or you could buy the whole thing. So the idea is no one wanted them when it was North. Well, no one wants you when you're not North as well. So I think most of these players, I'm sad to say, it's probably retirement time, or you're going to have to play tier 4 or something. Like, nobody's signing you to these top teams. I even think, by the way, it's pretty telling that all these players want to make a team, and MSL didn't want to make a team with you. He'd rather still just go on his own. That kind of says where you are in your career at this point, boys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think AZ,
he could play if he wants, but I don't know what his rep is with the other players. That's the downside.
Yeah, Gade, I mean, at 26 and
he's in the was when he come on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
he just never made it. You had a lot of chances, you know.
Yeah, you had a lot of chances. You had more chances than a lot of people, but it just hasn't worked out for you. Borup's the one I kind of feel a bit sorry for. He's still young, still decent, played in Heroic, did well in that Heroic lineup. I mean, it was one of those hard cuts that had to be made to take Heroic to the next level.
Yes.
Definitely deserves another chance in another team, certainly more so than Izzy and Gaden. Obviously, Fessor is not a player
at all.
Yeah, well, he didn't really impress me when he actually did play for Hyenas. You know, this is somebody that had come from shit. I mean, I don't even know where they picked him up. Was it like Tricked or some fucking weird mix that he was on or something? But anyway, the bottom line is he didn't do enough to stand out in a team of players that realistically you want the youngsters to be standing out alongside these, you know, washed up veterans. So yeah, shame for Kiebi. I hope he does get another opportunity, honestly. But if he fucks off and stays gone, equally wish him all the best. Thanks for the memories and all of that. Now, with that said, slightly more high-profile retirement. NBK.
This one actually shocked me, dude. This rocked me to my core. Because here's the thing. Someone made this point afterwards. If you actually read what he said, he in no way implied, by the way, he was going pro in Valorant. He just implied he's just going to stream Valorant now. Like, that's what shocked me. Because think about this, right? If I haven't made enough of a case in the past about people like Kenny S and Guardian can't get teams. Wow, the Gorillas mix can't get players. If the idea that NBK doesn't have any eligible offers in Pro CS, like, that is insane. Because I know, listen, for some reason, fans have been against NBK for a few years now. Basically, ever since Vitality, like, kicked him out, they've all sort of bought into the idea that, yeah, he is just, like, too stubborn and over. But what I don't get is, Nick, go talk to his actual teammates. Like, this is one of the most revered players to ever play Pro CS. And by the way, I've made this point before, his fucking trophy cabinet is bonkers, mate. It's like, he's still winning shit until, like, last year, basically. Like, every year of his career, he's in the mix, he's on a relevant team, he changes his role as age goes on. So, like, if you want to pick up people who are veterans with experience, it's got to be on the top of your shortlist. But that just shows to me where the current climate of the industry is. The current climate of the industry, it's happening in League of Legends as well, is it's fuck veterans. We only want rookies. We're all about gambling on cheap rookies. And if one of them doesn't turn out to be
Cheap being the key
If
word.
they don't turn out to be good, it's all right. We'll get a few more scratch tickets. Get us 10 more of them. There you go. And you just keep going until you get someone. But what they don't realise in doing so is, listen, as an individual player, MBK is probably not going to win a major or something. But he could be part of a team as a supportive element that could be a contender for a major, as he arguably was in OG. So I find it very sad, the idea is retired. Unless he literally just wanted out himself. It's crazy to me that there's no space in the industry for someone like that.
Yeah, it is a weird one, and at the end of the day, like, what do you want to teach these rookies when you take a gamble on them? Surely having a 2-time fucking major winner around has some sort of benefit if you want to actually develop young talent. Who better to learn from? But the problem you've got here is, and like I've said this to Nathan, we're all friends. We're always very honest with each other. He has made a bit of a rod for his back because, unfortunately, he still sees himself as a leader. He always saw himself as a leader. What created all the tensions in OG wasn't that MBK was playing so poorly to the point he had to be dropped. No, he was doing his role very efficiently.
Yeah. And he was good by the end.
Yeah, no problems there. The problem was he was becoming critical of Alexi B and wanted to be an IGL, wanted to call on some maps. And by his own admission, because I interviewed him again, that's up on the channel if people want to go check it out. By his own admission, he handled it terribly. And even said, by the way, after being dropped and benched and having lost that particular battle, he said he offered an apology and said, if we could smooth things over, I'd be open to coming back and giving it another try. Okay, and of course, he was on loan to double. But that's who he is. It's like I've known Nathan be hot-headed at various points, especially when he was younger. He's definitely mellowed with age. I've known him. Definitely want to impose his ideas on the team. I know that he's had clashes with numerous, also future Hall of Famers like him about what the best way to play Counterstrike is. And as he got a little bit older, yeah, he did think, listen, maybe it's my time to lead. And every time he did, it was pretty disastrous, if we're honest about it. The teams he was the IGL of never really lived up to the rosters. But equally, I think he's acknowledged, certainly he was acknowledging that this was like potentially the end of his CS career if he didn't sort things out or get a big offer, because he's going to have a salary, he's going to have a buyout still at OG. There was a lot of moving parts to negotiate. So I think that's why he was open to going back. They sort of kindly let him go and play in double pony on the basis that it wasn't a real team and it wasn't going to go anywhere. But yeah, I think overall, like, this is a guy who was always eventually got around to acknowledging his mistakes. And for example, also in that interview, he talked about how him and Shocks had buried the hatchet. Now, I honestly thought when Vitality made their changes, like maybe there was a road back there, but unfortunately, some bridges do still stay burned, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. So, listen, I think losing him, I think this might conceivably be one of the biggest blows in terms of where CS actually is. As you say, if people can't find money in the bank account to fund NBK being on their roster, and NBK doesn't have the motivation to stick around and wait and see what opportunities are available to him, so much so he'll walk away from the game he made his name in to go and just stream another game, not play professionally. I'm sure he'll have an offer eventually in Valorant, but for a team, someone will definitely roll the dice on him over there. But he's walking away from a potential career in Counter-Strike to go and stream a brand new game. And this is what I keep saying to people. Like, I saw in the retirement thread, haha, MBK washed up, haha, another one bites the dust. People saying this means anything are idiots. I'm saying it means something. I'm not an idiot. I know the lay of the land. I know the esports economy. I know these players. This is a bad sign. This isn't like simple leaving to go and play Valorant, although watch this fucking space. But it is a amazing player, Hall of Famer player, basically quitting Counter-Strike on the basis that nobody can afford to keep him around anymore. And that should terrify you if you're a fan of Counter-Strike.
I even think the notion that, like, he's washed, it's just nonsense, because you look at the roles he's played, and like I said, especially I remember at Flashpoint 2, he was actually pretty good, mate. Like, he was actually doing his job very well. And obviously I had the biased element that I could hear the comms, so I knew like what he was saying and what he was trying to do. But I'd even had this in. I look at some of the teams out there in the scene. I'll give you one right off the top of my head immediately from watching them today. Mouse Sports.
Yep.
Mate, we could kick fucking a couple of people out of mouse spots and bring NBK to make the team better. Like, they've just got all the fucking 8 fraggers, haven't they? Where are the like, quality role player pieces? You don't have one. He could have basically been like a fucking rich man's Chris J in that team and just slotted right in and done whatever you needed.
Well, he even said himself as well, like the motivation it would have required for him to do it again, and just the rigors of what it takes to build a team. He even said that, like, you know, he wants to have some fun in his life. I mean, look, I think we've just turned a blind eye to all the problems that are in Counterstrike for too long.
Yes.
And the pandemic has basically been the accelerator. It's lit the fuse, and like the title sequence from fucking Mission Impossible, there's no putting it out now. We are gonna have to fucking reap what we've sown. And unfortunately, I think MBK, I think it's the tip of an iceberg. I think we're gonna see some other big names that are on the cusp of having have those new starts in their career, and they're not going to stick around and make those new starts. They're not even going to give it a chance, and there's not even going to be a lot of opportunities for them to do that because they're going to want salaries commensurate to their experience and skill, and no one wants to pay that in CS right now. The funny thing is, he probably could get his CS salary in a Valorant team.
Oh, I would imagine, yeah.
That's the madness of where we're at. So he could go to a brand new game with no experience in it and basically monetize the experience he has in CS over in Valorant. He can't monetize the experience he has in CS in CS. So I don't know what to say to people out there about the state of play in the CS economy right now. But that's where we're at.
So, I'll also throw in there, because I just noticed he's only 27 himself. To be fair, like that's why I agree with you that this also highlights some of the problems we've basically had, like bubbling under the surface, but everyone sort of turned a blind eye to. The burnout one's an obvious one. This is a guy who's been in a top team, going to every event for at least a decade, and I mean every event you can, constant. So as a result, it's not that like they can't do it anymore. A lot of these guys are like fucking war veterans. They've done it a million times. It's just that, like, as you say, if it's like, right, so I have to start all over again and climb all the way up.
Yeah.
No one wants to do the thing. You know, when Mouse Spots a month ago were like, oh, we just played like 4 best of 3s in half a day or whatever the fuck. No one wants to do that and then, you know, not be on the top again. That's why, unfortunately, a lot of the ones that are getting wrecked with the legendary players are the ones who are going, I'll just wait for a tier 1 offer that could win it. It's like, it's never coming, mate. Listen, I know why you're doing that, because who the fuck wants to start over, but that offer ain't coming, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame, but again, everyone's going to do what's right for themselves in the end, and this isn't the situation we had a few years ago where moron North American owners were going, we just can't monetize CS, so we're just not going to support it. It's the game that's the problem. No, I mean, that wasn't true in 2017, 2018, but yeah, we got problems now, and it's true now, and Valve have done nothing about it and won't do anything about it. I was astounded to even see them tweet about fucking Cologne, honestly. Like, you know, that actually took me by surprise. But whatever. Right, next story. Let me scroll up here. Let's go. Go on then, let's go to the Sonic one. Because I think this is interesting and it will tie in to all the reporting that I talked about, which of course was vehemently denied by Casper Shit and all the rest of the Astralis organization. But, you know, chicken's definitely coming home to roost now. So let's talk about this. The story goes, according to sources, that Sonic is looking to leave Astralis after obviously a glowing career over there. His contract is coming to an end. It officially ends at this year, but they're now, from the start of this month, they've been able to have pre-contract agreements because there's 5-6 months left on their contract, and that's in line with contract law in Denmark. So Sonic is basically looking at either leaving the organization altogether, perhaps to quit, or is having, you know, a review of his options and seeing if there's anything better out there. Now, it could be a test. Sonic didn't comment when this story came up. Astralis didn't comment on. I know that, for example, some of the Astralis players have had talks with other orgs to see what their market value is. And obviously, you need to know that if you're going to have negotiations with your employer. So it could be that. But personally, based on the report I put out in 2020 and everything at the end of 2020 and everything else I know about the organization and the issues these guys have faced while working for Astralis, I think personally he's done with the org and will leave. which is a huge blow. And I mean, look, it was already the end of Astralis as we knew it, with Device leaving. Glaive confirmed that as well. He said, without a top-tier AWPer, we'll never be number one for some time, he said in an interview recently, ahead of Cologne, tempering expectations, and also a deviation from how they usually talk themselves up ahead of tournaments. But yeah, I think Zonic will be out of the door, and I think that's it. I mean, Zonic was so integral to this team's success. The best coach possibly, well, not possibly, the best coach ever in CSGO. You don't replace people like Zonic.
No. To me, the 3 players or 3 people you had to maintain in Astralis to believe it was possible to reboot and have anything approaching that success were in this order. Device, Glaive, Zonic. You had to have those 3 people. You could literally let any of the others go. Like, you could let Zipnix make it. Yeah, even though those are really important pieces. The point is, I won't say you could replace exactly what they did, but you could replace them with a different player. That's the point. If you lose these players, like, it's already implied Glaive's probably going to leave. I mean, it's pretty... I even think that comment, by the way, sort of implies, like, I'm not just fucking a company man. I'm just going to tell it how it is. And you know what? You haven't fucking given me an AWPer, have you? So why would I go to ESO Cologne? I am Cologne now and win the tournament. It's fucking stupid, isn't it? Like, I may as well have Yugi in the team again at this point. And the Zonic one, to me, that is the ultimate indictment of the Astralis org. Because I already got the vibe, even though he never said anything publicly, that Zonic didn't particularly like the way they handled shit the last few years, especially the burnout stuff. But this one is the killer. Because think about it logically. Even if you did lose those players, Device, Glaive, you know what? As long as I keep Zonic, and then by the way, still a massive pull for young talent. If they I'm going to work with Zonic, that sounds like it's going to make your career. So in my opinion, you don't think the Astralis org's gone to Zonic and given him some of their ideas of what they wanted to do, or here's how we're going to re-up, or here's how we're going to replace Device? This sounds like he's just like, yeah, I'm not in on any of that shit. That sounds garbage, mate. I'm out. Like, so either retire, by the way, wouldn't blame him. I'm sure he's made more money than God from Counterstrike. Never thought he'd make this much. He was obviously the player who infamously said CSGO would never be big when it was a tiny game. Like, I'm sure he never thought he'd have this level of success. He has got a family, as people know. I'm sure he doesn't want to travel all around the world all the time, as we're going to have to again soon. I wouldn't blame him if he retired. I do personally hope he sticks around, because I obviously would love to see what happens if he builds a totally different squad. And I would certainly hope that as soon as that news comes out, loads of orgs are sending the equivalent of a black check, just saying, look, mate, if you want to come to my org, we can do anything here. We can kick players, we can rebuild the squad. Let's just find out where you're at, mate. If you want to build another team, I hope plenty of orgs want to buy in on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, look, so just back to the point about Astralis and Zonic not being a company man and Zonic, you know, being a bit aggrieved with some of the things that went on. People need to understand the history, because I know we've got new people coming into CS in this podcast all the time. So at the end of 2018, Zonic, his father passed away, and Zonic barely took any time off after that. His dad was battling cancer. And Zonic had been helping him through that, like literally played a very active part in his care. And on top of that, Zonic was also completing his master's thesis at that point. So he did that while coaching and managing the greatest CS team of all time. He gives so much of himself to that organization. And when he needed something, i.e. time off, or give my players time off so they're not burnt out, they didn't do it. When they put them on that insane run in 2019, where it's like you're on fucking 4 continents in 5 weeks, and you played in, what was it, 8 tournaments in 45 days or whatever the fuck it was. I can't even remember the exact numbers. You know, it was clear that Astralis cared about one thing and one thing only, and that was brand strength ahead of floating on a stock market, right? Now, if I'm a Zonic and I've worked tirelessly for this org, helped build the most successful CSGO team of all time, established myself as the best coach of all time, done it while working tirelessly to get myself through school, complete a master's, and also working through the bereavement of my father, who was very close, very close to, and Astralis give me nothing back. And I still, by the way, even as late as 2020, during the pandemic, we're still having to turn up for training, and it's treated like it's regimented, like an office job, because Casper Fit fucking only understands handball and doesn't realize that you can work smarter, not harder in esports, because he's some fucking boomer, not from our world. If I was Zonic, I'm done at that point. Them then letting Device go, facilitating that move, And clearly, the players didn't even know about it until Device told them. Didn't know there was anything in the wind there. And then sort of seeing Device and NIP essentially shit on you and your legacy, saying, "We're 5 steps ahead from me." I'd be done with it. I'm done. Like, what am I doing this for at that point?
Yes. I had to put it this way, it's what I always describe as the epiphany I had at Flashpoint. It wasn't, by the way, the idea we couldn't ever succeed. Like, I've sat around loads of times thinking of different angles we could have gone. It's that I had a flash one day where I realised, wait a minute, let's say it all went as well as possible. Like, we succeeded beyond even my wildest dreams. Why would I want to make some of these people rich? Why the fuck would I? Like, my best case scenario is not the scenario I'd want. So, similar scenario, I agree with Zonic. After all that he's done for that org, mate, even beyond some of the players, he should be like minted forever. He should have like some sort of status within that org that supersedes the role of coach far and away. Like, the thing to me is, if I was the Astralis org, this is where I think they fucked up massively.
He doesn't even have equity as far as I'm aware.
That's what I mean. The idea that like the second he finished that era, they didn't tell him 2 things. 1, here's a bunch of equity, and 2, we want you to, if in the future, if you ever think about not coaching anymore, you're going to become the director of the esports. You know, you want him to like be in the org forever. What's mad about Astralis is this. You can make as much comments as you want about Nicola Nyholm and all the other fuckers. Like, listen, at least they're like corrupt in a way that's like pretty obvious. Like, you know the way their bread's buttered. The move they've done that is no joke killed their fucking org is recruiting this Casper Vid guy. I haven't heard a single good thing from any fucking cunt involved. Even the ones I don't get along with that told me stuff. Nobody has a good thing to say about this guy. And it sounds like, no joke, he has alienated fucking everyone in the org.
Oh, yeah.
Mental. Except the management, apparently. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I think what they've done is they've brought him in because he's a big name domestically. Again, think share price, stock market, headlines, and they haven't. And I, if I was a betting man, if I was to privately talk to Nicola Nyholm, I think he'd acknowledge it was a mistake. I don't think a lot of people are vibing with what he's doing over there because most of the grievances are coming from him. And you'll notice he's always the one putting his name to these ludicrous press releases.
He still does interviews to this day where he'll just say stupid ass shit in the HLTV. And you think, who's checking this before it goes out?
Yeah. And remember, you know, this is the guy who's come out and said, me and you questioning burnout as an excuse for players is dangerous. Which, by the way, all we ever did was say, here is a bunch of things all happening at the same time. So, I mean, like, you can't have it both ways at your Astralis. Either it's wrong of us to question the burnout being real because it came at a time when the players were really pissed off and you wouldn't give them a holiday, and I know they were talking to other orgs, right? So, but surely then, if it's important to recognize burnout, why did they have to essentially go on strike to get time off? Exactly. Yeah, like, you can't say we're the cunts. Like, you have to, either you're the cunts, you know, or burnout isn't genuine and you should stand your ground and force yourself to, you know, force players to give what they're contracted to do. You have to make that choice. But what Casper Fit has done, what Astralis have done every time, whenever they put these press releases out, it's always like, listen, we've done all these amazing things, you know, we're going to take us into the future. But when you actually look at what's happening in terms of roster moves, in terms of player motivation, in terms of stuff going on behind the scenes, actually they're shit in the bed. And it's been very clear to me, like, this is Astralis is a shadow of itself. They are going to run this brand into the ground the longer it goes on, because they are going to have to deal probably this year, certainly by the end of this year, they're going to have to somehow put a positive spin on Zonic leaving, Glaive leaving, and Zitnik's leaving. And probably Dupree as well at that point.
There is no angle you can do for that as well. It doesn't exist. Like, there's no PR guy in the world can make that work.
No. So, and I'm sure they'll be like, well, you know, there was all these other problems. You know, I can't wait to see where they put the blame. Probably on me and you, right? Probably the media. But the bottom line is, like, Astralis have already lost what is arguably the crown jewel in Device. And you know, you lose Zonic as well. I don't even think it matters at that point if you somehow convince Glaive and Zitnik to stick around.
It's not enough. It's not enough, mate.
It's not enough at all. So,
because if you acknowledge what Zonic did, then you can't just have no Zonic and then just all be cool, can you? Like, obviously he must have played an important part.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, Zonic is an all-time legend. I don't know what his thoughts about me are, but they're irrelevant to that. I think, I think that guy, as you said, if he does want to stay in CS, and I sincerely hope he does, someone needs to cut him a check. Like, if you don't deem a veteran player to be worth a check, fair enough. If you don't deem, if the greatest coach of all time can't get another job in CS, we're even more fucked than I thought we were, and that's not good at all. But yeah, best of luck to him.
I would also even say as well, listen, certain Astralis people I won't extend this fucking leeway to, but I'll give it to most of the players, and Zonic especially, is this, right? As long as you didn't publicly attack me or Richard, there is totally a way back where it doesn't even have to be a big deal what happened last year in the first part of this year, because it goes like this. I totally get, and you'll understand this phenomenon when I explain it. I get why players sometimes stupidly associate themselves with the company we're talking about, which is basically your arsehole boss, not you, and then sort of conflate the two and you think we're attacking you, right? Because I've seen this happen loads of times, Richard, with people when they're working as event talent. Like, I'll give you an example. Say I flamed something about IEM Cologne now, there'll be someone working Cologne who'll be thinking, well, this is a great opportunity for me, I like ESL. So they'll like take it personally and be like, well, try and argue against it. And I always tell them, like, mate, it's not about you. I'm starting to talking about ESL, the company now. So in the same way as you can acknowledge there's going to be problems at events I'm at, we all have to be able to do that. Like, don't take it personally. But I get that people get wrapped up in it. So I would hope this happens, especially once they leave, they realise, actually, why the fuck was I standing up for people I think are cunts myself for different reasons? So hopefully eventually it'll just all be water under the bridge on that one, because I always thought it was all stupid as fuck the way they sort of were like, on the one hand, they were mildly pissed at some of the stuff we were revealing, but you have to understand eventually it was like, we had to cauterize the wound. It had to be done. Otherwise the gangrene just take off the whole body and kill everyone, wouldn't it?
I mean, listen, like, I never had any issue with anyone on Astralis. I don't even care if they did say, my device went on and sort of refuted some points of the report, and he was specifically sent to do that job on the HLTV podcast. A podcast, obviously, HLTV hates you and me, to an extent where platforming a player critiquing anything we've said would be a feather in their cap, regardless. Sure. But even so, in the same way I said it about Freiburg and with Nip and everything else, I don't care. Like, if a player who was under duress comes out and says what Richard Lewis has reported is a lie, that's all right. That's the game we're in. That's the first move an org is going to do when it comes to refuting reporting. And let's be real, if you're a good journalist, anyone you're reporting about is at war with you, essentially.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So I understand that, and I also understand it's easy for me to sit there and go, oh, where are your principles? Where's your back? But when we're talking about an org having a contractual clause where they can take all your fucking money away, bench you, discipline you, obviously you can't come out and criticize them or give away any of that. So I've got no beef with them at all. In fact, I'll be out of esports probably in the next year myself or so. I'm gonna ride out this year and get out. I mean, certainly CS is a fucking sinking ship. So why I would dedicate any more of my energy to that, So yeah, there's probably a world where we all meet up for fucking drinks at some point, and we all laugh about how stupid it all was, because ultimately all of the fights, all of the battles that we fought, it was all for nothing. We were all just polishing brass on the Titanic and wasting time, weren't we?
What I would say is this, by the way, if you're a fan and for some reason the penny still hasn't dropped, just do this thought exercise. Think about where Astralis the org was when they completed that era. In fact, not even just when they completed the era, they obviously had the wins of the major after that. And think about the end of 2019, right? So at the end of 2019, you're actually on the brink of maybe making a second era. You've won another major, you won all these tournaments, like Richard says. You top four every tournament. Like, a bad tournament is a top four finish with like a close semi-final loss. You have the best lineup ever on paper. You have the best coach on paper. By the way, at this point in time, everyone who has a Danish passport would join your team tomorrow. They would tell. I'm not joking. Like, if you had literally gone to those Complexity players who just joined Complexity and you'd said, look, we'll pay the money to break your buyout, are you coming tomorrow? They all say yes. Imagine taking that point in time and telling someone, oh, by the way, 2 years later, they lose all those good players, and the best player they're able to sign is either Bobski, or maybe it'll end up being Essetag or fucking Acor. How could you not look at that and go, holy fuck, there needs to be a movie made on this of how they fucked this up? How did you go from that position in the market to being below a heroic or something like that and not even maybe be able to get heroic players? Like, that is such a fuck up of such epic magnitude. You can do nothing but put it at the feet of the management of the Astralis Org. How have you done that, mate? Listen, plenty of people have put a foot wrong. You fucked up. That's like you shot yourself in the foot 10 times in a row.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, and I hope people realize as well now that when they go back, what's going to be great is, I urge anybody that's interested in what's happening with Astralis now, go back and read that report I did and then join the dots to where we're at now.
Yeah.
And if you still want to refute it, then I can't help you. But I would like to think even the biggest fanboy in the world, you know, which is an illness, so good luck overcoming it. But even the biggest fanboy in the world can look at that report, look at what's happened since, and realize, oh, yeah, this was completely on point. And it wasn't just accurate reporting at the time. It was also a pretty dark precursor of where we were going to get to.
Yeah. Also, let's be real, guys. That whole Danish thing's done. Denmark, the football nation's done. Denmark, the CS nation. It's England all the fucking way. If you're not from England, get the fuck out of this podcast right now.
You don't even like football, you sad cunt.
I don't give a flying fuck, mate. I know.
I'll tell you what, mate. I watched the Denmark game with fucking Sam. Oh, mate, because I'm half rice, half chips, right? Like I'm Welsh and English, so you know. Sometimes I have moments where I watch England do something and I go, yeah, you know, that's good. I like certain players there. You know, I'm happy for Luke Shaw, and you know, there's some good stories emerging. I want Rashford to feature more in the team because he just seems like good people. You know what I mean? Sure. So there's, you know, you watch it and you go, oh yeah, England, yeah. There are some cunts, obviously. But Sam is like, Sam said, right, what was it you said? He said, basically, it goes like this, Rich, but if it's a world war, I'm on England's side. But if it's anything else...
yeah,
exactly.
I don't think people get that. That is a real thing, by the way. It's not. This is why I always have to explain to Americans. I know it's complicated, but actually the UK is only like a country in the same way as like the European Union is a continent. It's not really. It's like a thing you join. Really, it is just like, I'd say 4, but you can technically count more. It's just 4 countries in it. Because let's be real, like any idiot who thinks like, oh, so when Scotland goes out, do you support England? Do they they support everyone except Scotland? That's the joke, isn't it? Like
your boy, England, I will dominate. Fucking tweeting out, going, surely the Welsh will support England now. I was like, mate, you don't know, like, but it's hard for me as well because unfortunately, you know, you watch, like, put it this way, when we got battered 4-0 by Denmark, right? All the players did a lap of honor. Don't know why. Like I wasn't happy with that, but whatever. Bale came out and told an interviewer to piss off because they were asking questions about him specifically and not the team and whether or not he'd retire. But the bottom line was, you know, the hyped up Danes after what happened to Christian Eriksen, you know, power to them. We wish them all the best in the tournament, and we're all fucking proud to be Welsh. And that was that. And there was no bullshit. All the Welsh boys, all the louts were out there. They all went and had a drink, had a good time, and that was the end of it. And you look at all the nonsense that have come out with these English gammon bastards just off the Denmark game, shining a laser in Kasper Schmeichel's eyes.
Bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, spitting on the fans, apparently, like as they were leaving the ground. And you just see their fucking orc human hybrid faces banging drums like fucking Saruman just pulled them out of a pod. And yeah, it is hard sometimes to fucking, you know, you do want those cunts to go home crying a lot of the time. So it is hard for me. I am a house divided.
But it's way, your problem is basically the problem I had when like the Astralis players played in TSM, and it's like, look, I love these players, but I fucking hate TSM fans so much. Like, yeah, you got that problem. I get it. Okay.
Yeah,
my problem as well is this is a really weird angle to have, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's just my philosophy. My problem as well is this, like, for example, it's just that I don't like football, the sport, that much. Like, I watch that game and I'll watch the final, but my problem is this. I can never get super patriotic because I can only do it if I really just think about my family and my people. Yeah, obviously, those people I could fight, right? My problem is this. Part of me, when I think about being patriotic for the England football team, I am also being patriotic for the same, like, essentially the same establishment that would draft me to fight in a pointless war and just throw my life away for absolutely nothing. So I can never really ride with that side. Like, I'll never get fully on with the countries thing in that sense. I just care about my area and my people.
Yeah, last time I even felt vaguely patriotic, right, was back. So when I was living in Wales and living in Port Talbot, I used to go and play bowls on the reg because there's just nothing else to do in Port Talbot. Sam can definitely testify to that.
Young people play balls. I thought it was for like 70-year-olds.
Oh, it is.
Young people play.
No, Sam says it, but like there was loads of young'uns down at ball smashing everyone's head.
Yeah, in the 60s, like.
Mate. Yeah, that's when I was living in Wales in the 60s. Like
when you were hand cranking your engine,
definitely not in like 2014 or something, right? But anyway, so balls. It's got a pretty good club. In fact, I think John Price, former world champion, comes from Port Talbot, so it's it's in the community. Also, as well, what Sam's conveniently missing out was the period of time when the Avon Lido had burnt down, and the Avon Lido was our swimming pool. Yes, the swimming pool burnt down in Port Talbot because we're just that good at what we do. So there was nothing to do, so people were playing balls, right? So I was down there, and I used to play in a team called Mass Psychosis, and it was two deaf guys, a former Welsh international player, and a 92-year-old called
your
Win.
entire life. I hate it here, but just the series was your life. Like, what even is this? I know.
But I was saying it was great playing with the deaf guys because so one of the things you do to psych out your opponents is when you're doing a ball, you sort of usher it down the green. You go like, yeah, come on.
Okay.
But if you do it like too loud, the ref, the umpire or whatever, will give you like a conduct thing and they can complain about you.
Etiquette in this shit. Like,
of course, yeah, but
just pretty busting off like, what?
Yeah. But the thing is, with the deaf guys, because they were fully deaf, they were fully mutton, right? They used to go like, and make like super loud noises, right? Yeah, no joke, right? And nobody could say anything. So we used to psych out our opponents. We just send Matty down. Go on, Matty, do your thing, and no one could say anything to him. And he was doing it on purpose, obviously making the deaf noises to put people out, right? So anyway, Win was 92 years old. He's dead now, of course. Rest in peace. But he fought in the war, and he was Welsh, and he was conscripted. Basically, he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go fight in a war. Right?
Yeah, understandably. Yeah, he's going to die, isn't he?
No, but I mean, some people did want to go and wanted to stick into the bosh, right? Yeah. Wynn didn't want to go. He said he wanted to go his whole life without committing violence to anyone else. So him and a bunch of guys from his village down the road from Port Talbot, they all agreed they were going to go the whole war. We're not killing anyone, right?
That's such a ludicrous fucking deal to make, I know.
Yeah. So anyway, he eventually managed to wrangle it so he got put on fucking supplies. He had to man the supply lines and drive trucks or whatever. And some German paratroopers come down. And basically it was him or them, right? So he didn't want to shoot this guy, but he shot and killed this one dude. And it broke him, like it haunted him for years and all that. But yeah, he said he wanted to just go. He was just a pacifist. He didn't want to kill anybody. Didn't want to fight. Didn't want to kill. Didn't want to be conscripted. And so anyway, he did that, which I think that's a noble sentiment, as ridiculous as it might sound, that you didn't want to fight and kill people in World War II, or you didn't want to be conscripted to do it. I think that's a noble sentiment. And this is why the Shire in Tolkien's novels was based on rural Wales.
Yes, makes sense.
We just wanted to chill the fuck out and not fight. Just grow our leeks and smoke weed or whatever. Anyway, so he also told me, because we wouldn't drink, the rest of the boys, we'd all get pissed up, play balls, and he wouldn't drink. And he told me that he's only been drunk once in his life. And that was when he was allowed in the officers' mess when we won the war. And he drank once, and they were for winning the war. Their reward was you got the next day off, and then it was just back to work as usual, back to the army. And so he had a drink.
Casper Hit, of course, running the army at the time. I know.
Yeah, Casper Hit, General Hit.
Right, you've won a war. You can have one day off.
Yeah,
Monday get back.
He literally got fucking 1 day off, and he spent it in bed vomiting because he was so cripplingly hungover from booze, and he never touched another drop since that fateful day in 45. So he was a legend, mate. And like, when I think about everything that's great about Wales, I think about win. Yeah, I do get patriotic when I think about that. But not so much when I think about the state of Port Talbot or Sam repairing lawnmowers in Wales. You make me unpatriotic, you do. So, but anyway, just a point in the story about nothing. Let's talk about, because we're talking about ridiculous fans. Let's do Na'Vi and the Russian RMR. Are you ready? Because listen, I just want to ask a question. Right, because you have experience with this, Duncan, and I respect your opinion, obviously. Are there honestly a bigger bunch of morons than Na'Vi fans in the whole of esports? Like, real question. Is there a bigger congregation of educationally subnormal cretins supporting an esports team anywhere else?
But this way, they're definitely on the short list of like all esports, all regions. Because here's the thing that's very weird I've noticed about CIS fans in general is somehow they actually, I'll have to come up with a term for this, like a Turing test type term. Because here's what's weird. The Brazilians just hard crash into that wall of like, if they don't speak English, that's it. Like all they can do is just say a Corral or whatever, and then they don't tend to engage that, which is very simple. What's weird about the Russians is they'll all type in like Russian. It'll be fully Cyrillic or whatever. But if you hit translate, it's like they're actually trying to write fucking novels to you, mate. Like all like in depth. And I just think like, stop a second and think. You don't understand English well enough to speak it to me, someone you know only speaks English, but I'm supposed to believe you comprehended what I said only in English. Like, the very premise is offensive. Like that, just as like that alone is like a special type. It's like pointed stupidity. It's not just like like the Brazilian example I'm giving. It's just a person running into a wall. It's whatever, isn't it? This is almost like they've got just enough intelligence to understand like there needs to be a communication here, but then they've completely misunderstood that like they aren't qualified to have the discussion. Because I agree, mate. The amount of like comments that are just like I say, it's not just blind stupidity. It's almost just annoying stupidity.
Come to enjoy the Brazilian abuse out of all the abuse I get.
It's very predictable.
Yeah, well, it's just basically you're going to do something to my ass because I'm the gay one, but it's you that wants. Yeah, there's a lot of that, mate. I bet they sell a lot of fucking closets in Brazil this time of year, especially, right? But yeah, you're going to do something to my ass because I'm gay. And here's a picture of Vampeta naked. Also,
I'm so sick of seeing first of all the Vampire guy and that football player, the one with the shit haircut. I don't want to see those two images. Like those have already almost been burned into my brain like Chinese water torture. So like, get them out of my mind. I don't want to see that image anymore.
No, but every time I see Vampeta's big grin, he's just there, fully buck naked, got a semi, grinning, happy, doing that photo shoot near the goalpost.
Should I tell you a really fucked up anecdote this is making me think of? It's totally legit. It's not like the timestamp or anything. But this is just because it's going to tie the two stories together, right? Okay. In the late days of 1.6, when I was going to all those like Arbalete events or whatever, so I was going to a lot of events in CIS region.
Yeah, I remember them, yeah.
I hadn't gone to CIS region for any reason in my life. There's no reason to, was there? So when I was going to all these events, right, I remember one time I was on like one of those websites that is one that I can't remember if it's like proplay.ru or whatever the fuck all their Russian websites were called at the time. And on one of them, right, when I was at this event, I like the guy next to me was from one of those websites, and he was obviously like, scrolling through his forums and stuff. And I kept looking over, and I said, like, who the fuck is that guy? And they had this guy that was in all their memes, and he goes, oh, he is gay porn star. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why is he in this meme then? And then he just goes, matter of fact, he just turns to me and goes, I don't know why, but they always edit him into all get right memes. And then just as though that was totally reasonable. Yeah, as though that was reasonable, just turns back and just starts snapping on the keyboard. Like, no explanation needed. Just for some reason, get right. It's just, there's a million memes in this. So this just gay porn star, just editing all the like. I remember just thinking like the idea he thought that was just a matter of fact thing. Just all the get right memes. Like I was like, this is another world, mate. Get me out. What is this?
That's why
he was bad, and this is ridiculous. I know.
But yeah, you know. So listen, the Navi fans have done it again and proven themselves to be unbelievably stupid. And let's distill what I'm talking about. So first of all, we'll just talk briefly about the Star Ladder, CIS, RMR. We can have a laugh about Akuma in just a second. But first, let's talk about Navi. So I've got to say, I think any format like this is AIDS. I thought this format was pure AIDS.
Oh, it's terrible.
You ended up with Gambit and Navi in the same group. AIDS. Fuck that. That's so bad. That is so ridiculous. So they play each other in the groups, but then they also play each other in the knockout stage. Haven't played each other in the groups, which, by the way, that shouldn't be possible until the final. But the way this format worked out, they played each other in an upper bracket, right? So Navi get knocked down in the lower bracket at that point, battle through, and then end up playing Gambit again in a grand final. Like, how many bites of the cherry are you going to give a fucking team? So, right, now, everybody has been going ham over what a great achievement it is for Navi to beat Gambit. Yeah, and listen, it's a legit win. Sure. You 3-1'd them. Well done, right? Well done. You've beaten Gambit. I want to add, if you hadn't have beaten Gambit, that would have been the 5th series in a row you would have lost to them, right? And I also do want to say, it's all right, all irrelevant, depending on what happens at Cologne. That's the point you fans never get. But we'll talk about why you're a problem in a moment. So, first up, the win, they were heralding it like finally everything's clicked for Navi, as if they've never, they beat Gambit in that DreamHack.
Yep.
Best of 5, when Gambit were like, we don't like best of 5s before the final. Yeah. Literally tweeting, we don't like best of 5s. We think they're stupid. Then they get 3-0'd in a best of 5. At a DreamHack, by the way, not even a top tier tournament, but whatever. So you did that, and you added that to the blast you won earlier in the year.
Yep.
And now you're going, oh, we're Navi, we're the best team. Richard Lewis shouldn't criticize us. We're fucking amazing. This was a qualifier. You've won a qualifier. So point number 1, after having been given 3 bites at the cherry, on the 3rd, you ate the cherry in a qualifier, and you're celebrating that, and you don't see the problem. This is a qualifier. You won a qualifier, and you're celebrating it like it's the biggest victory of all time. Then anyone, and like this is where you might disagree, people are calling this a reverse sweep. It was even in the HLTV headline. Navi reverse sweep Gambit. They only played 4 maps.
Yes,
because of the way the format works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's not pretend this is a reverse sweep in the same way as you have played 2 maps. You are 2-0 down. No, so I don't know if I'm being mentally ill here and I am a hater or something. But why? Everyone was like, top comment on the thread after it happened. Reverse sweep, baby, and everyone's like, yeah, this is not a reverse sweep.
The thing, I get what you mean, but in a technical sense, it was a reverse sweep because just that's what you might call it. But I agree. If you're talking qualitatively about what a reverse sweep should mean, yeah, the idea is you went through 2 whole maps, you're at elimination point, and you basically had to fight like the ultimate like mental battle to get back in the game. Yeah, you didn't really do that if you started 1-0 down. Like you just lost 1 map and then you won 3. Yeah, I agree. I would say in terms of actual meaning, it doesn't really fit the bill.
Yeah. Sorry, just noticed the moron in the chat going, why are you criticising Navi? Did preface the whole segment saying we're talking about Navi fans. You're obviously one of them. Fuck off, cretin. This content's not for you. Go look at some memes. But anyway, so there's that. This was not a reverse sweep because they didn't have the mental drain of having played another map. Keep in mind, by the way, as well, I noticed all those criticisms about formats where the person who comes from the lower has to play in the grand final again. They all went away, didn't they? Why? Because Navi won. So you're not even consistent on that.
Whereas obviously at Blast, they had the same thing, didn't they? They came from lower and then they had to play the same day Gambit in the final. It was unfair. Well, yeah, it's the same thing though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I agree, by the way, that part of the format is ass. Like, the idea, I know, listen, I can tell you from the Flashpoint one, Valve sets a lot of the things in the RMI. You don't always get the say of what you do. But the idea that you play the lower bracket final and then the final itself the same day, that's just patently stupid. Like, the idea we've had that for Blast and now an RMR. What is this? What is 2021?
So all the Navi fans flood out. Hey, we won. We beat Gambit for 1 time. You've beaten them twice this year, right? Out of all the times you've played them. And and sure, both times have been in finals. This format was cheeks. So whatever, fine. Have the win. It's a legit win. But here's what you fans always do to your team. You go out and say, this is it now. We've won. We're the best. We finally beat Gambit. Keep in mind, all you've literally been doing for the last 2 tournaments you played in is anti-stratting Gambit. And yet, whenever you go to an international tournament, right, it's like you generally lose to Gambit or you just have a terrible finish. Keep in mind, this year, you finished 9th to 12th in Pro League. You finished like 5th in your Katowice defense. Let's stop pretending that Na'Vi don't have fucking problems when you get a fucking against the run win against Gambit. Because listen, you are going to beat Gambit sometimes. It's going to happen. Your entire strategy at the moment seems to be around, let's just try and beat Gambit. Right? I mean, meanwhile, but it's all for nothing. If you go to Cologne, by the way, and you do not win Cologne, you're all going to look like the fucking fools you are. So keep that in mind. And you actually contribute to this problem. When you gas up Na'Vi for winning a qualifier ahead of a big international tournament, you're encouraging that complacency that they are known for.
And also,
it's just
if you think
simple.
They haven't thought it through, but you'll also bring more criticism. Think about it, dude. If you hype Na'Vi that they're going to be the best team, they're going to get even more criticised when they don't win. Surely the fans don't realise they're feeding literally the enemy that they don't want to exist.
Yeah. No, but this is the problem overall, mate. It's just the fans they take every minor victory, even Pyrrhic victories, and they fucking glorify them like this is it now. And it never is. How many false storms like an Na'Vi going to have before their fans just become a bit more based in fucking objective reality?
Also, mate, how are they going to watch that tournament? Because the upper bracket final that they played against Gambit was a joke, mate. They had that game won on the 2nd and 3rd map and blew it, basically. Like, if I watch that series, even if you come back and win the final, you can't just pretend like those mistakes never happened and be like, no, it's all fixed. It's all perfect now. Like, Na'Vi still look ropey as fuck. And I know I'm saying they look ropey when they've just beaten Gambit, the unbeatable team, and they've won it up. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, the flaws. This is why it's so dumb that people hype this team. There's things to like about the team. By the way, the fact they can beat Gambit's one of them. But they are such a flawed team. I don't know if I've ever seen a team that was like number 2 or number 3 in the world that was this fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, like honestly, it's crazy that in this particular landscape, Na'Vi can't dominate, and that Gambit have completely had their lunch, and you get one like fluke win over them. And by fluke, I don't mean you didn't deserve the win in the game. By fluke, I mean it is not a regular occurrence, and more often than not, you lose to this team. Not that nuance will be fucking accounted for when this bit ends up falsely transcribed on Cybersport RU, and Simple is going, why he called Blade a clone, right?
By the way, I'll even say, think it through for a second. Let's imagine, right, that Gambit was a 90% chance to win against Na'Vi. By the way, that number would be absurd. Like, the idea that you could ever be 90% chance against any team in the top 10. That would still mean they lose 1 out of 10 times. So the real problem if you're a Na'Vi fan is, how many fucking like you said, all you've done is scale up the numbers. Yeah, if you played them once in 3 months, you probably lose. But if you play them fucking 20 times, you've got to at least win 2 or 3. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, like the moment they won, there was Reddit comments about me, right? Like, so keep in mind, my entire criticism of Na'Vi is don't accept second best because you've got the best player in the world. And you just a top 10 player in the world to back him up, and you've got a player that's breaking through and looking really good right now. You need to do something about your IGL, and you need to do something about your coach, because they were still doing, even in victory, those ridiculous fucked up, we can't manage the clock, losing those types of rounds. They do it every series. Yeah. Sometimes it costs them a map. Sometimes, you know, they do it, and Simple basically pulls them out of the fire by being just the best player to touch the game. But look at that HLTV thread, Sam. Richard Lewis in shambles. I'm in shambles. This was on the front page of HLTV. This was like talked about for 2 days about how I'd be in shambles because Na'Vi won a qualifier.
By the way, I'll even throw in there, the weirdest part to me is the entire Na'Vi saga with you started from criticising Blade, right? Well, here's a detail they're not even thinking about. In this RMR, they were running like the proper LAN rules where like the coaches can't talk all the time. And so Blade had fuck all to do with this win. Blade was like the rest of us just fucking watching it on the stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, you know.
But no, that itself is terrible because when I think of some of the mega flaws they were making, that means that really is Boomich making those calls. He's the one calling that dumbass shit at 10 seconds where you run in and just all die on the bomb spot. Like, Mate, that's why I don't know how people get hyped for Na'Vi. Like, I enjoy watching them win because they have, like, it's just a weird team.
I enjoy watching Simple play. That's all I can say about this team.
But I find them so unsatisfying to watch, though. Like, half the time I'm tearing my eye out when I watch them. I can't lie.
And that's the problem, right? Half of these Na'Vi fans that are doing this, they're not even from the CIS region. This is what I mean when I say, is there a bigger collection of morons? Because, in esports, basically, the average esports fan is a child, a glory-supporting child, the type of cunts that, they're walking around with City jerseys on, and probably in 5 years from now, whichever team overtakes City at the top of the Prem, I was always a Liverpool fan. That's all. That the average esports fan is like that. You don't support. You know nothing about Na'Vi. You know nothing about their history. You know nothing about their 1.6 heritage. You know absolutely fuck all about them. You just know, Simple, best player in world. I want to be good player at CS. I love Simple. Simple goated. I support Na'Vi. That's you. You're a pleb. You're a fucking pleb. That's all you are, like. And you're the people talking about all the... they finally won a series against Gambit, so now this is... No, you're a pleb. You're a fucking pleb. They still have all the same problems. If they win Cologne, let's talk. If they don't, you're a pleb. You're always a pleb. Forever a pleb. So fuck them. But yeah, I just can't believe that a qualifier, just when Na'Vi win a qualifiers are held in high regard now. Didn't see anyone wanking off about anyone winning the play-in. No, it's unique to your fan base. The play-in, by the way, with a much stronger field than the fucking CIS RMR. There's only Gambit 2 beat there, by the way. And you lost twice out of 3. So I don't understand it. I don't understand why anyone would be celebrating it that much. It's so mental to me. But anyway, so let's talk about Akuma as well at the RMR, because I know you'll enjoy this.
I'll just tuck this in, because if you're actually going to talk to Na'Vi fans, here's the one other detail to mention. There also would never have been a Gambit Na'Vi final if Simple didn't literally have to drop 42 kills on the decider against Spirit to drag them through that game. Because, by the way, that was a game where he was like, I think he was at like 20 kills, like 5 rounds in, and they were still like, we're up 3-2, lads. Like, it's one of those, like, Jesus, what is it? This man is literally Sisyphus. This is mental.
No, I know. But yeah, so it's like you say, it wasn't like this was anything out of the ordinary. This was once again an over-reliance on Simple to get you over the line. So whatever. Fine. Have it. Have your qualifier win. Celebrate it. Morons. But yeah, so Akuma obviously went to this RMR under a big cloud of scrutiny. And I think now we can all sort of say, we just know what was going on, don't we, the whole time, don't we?
Well, especially if you add in this context that I noticed wasn't reported that much, Rich. The difference for this RMR, you might have seen it on the stream, was they had a camera facing your screen. Crazy, and magically, when you have a camera facing your screen, so we could see, for example, if you had something behind your screen or on your screen, magically Akuma couldn't win fucking for love nor money. Couldn't get a fucking anything going in this tournament. Weird how that one works, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty, like, just to put it in context as well, previous RMR, Akuma beat Na'Vi 16-2 on Mirage, right? That's a fucking hell of a win. Anyone would be proud of that. Mirage is a good map for Na'Vi.
For sure.
They picked it again here, and they lost 16-5. And this is in the space of a few weeks. And let me tell you, Na'Vi definitely didn't anti-strat Akuma. They didn't take the time. Akuma got 11 rounds in 2 maps against Na'Vi, a team they beat 2-0 at the previous RMR. I think that just says it all. One thing I did notice was Simple pieced out of the game early and had to come back, very reminiscent of that Smoothie thing. And when asked about it publicly, he said, boring game. And it was just a boring game.
I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Now, there was a Reddit thread going, right, this is a bad look for Simple. You must be respectful of all opponents. And some people even said, I wonder if by the numbers will criticize them the same way they criticize Smoothie. Here's the difference. Smoothie did it in a game where there was none of the history from the previous RMR. Simple did it against people that almost certainly, on the balance of all evidence, fucking cheated. And in which case, fuck you, suck Simple salty nuts. You're a pack of cunts and you deserve no respect whatsoever. So good on Simple.
Yeah.
I wouldn't show them any respect either, frankly. They don't deserve any respect. Like, people are gonna say, oh, there's no, because I'm just over it, mate. Like I say, I'm not hearing of you. Who gives a fuck? For me, Akuma are a pack of cheating scum. I don't give a fuck. You can say it's irresponsible to say it. There's no evidence or whatever. I'll just take all the circumstantial evidence. I'll take all the betting patterns. I'll take the alerts from their former CEO, and I'll craft a narrative in my brain that makes sense. Because I'm not like the plebs out there who are like, you're only doing this because it's the underdog. Something is very fucking wrong with those clips. Something is very fucking wrong with those results. And something is very fucking wrong with the lack of protections at that tournament and the subsequent betting patterns around it. If you can't see when the fix is in, don't come crying to me. Fuck you. And it was great to see Akuma get absolutely fucking roasted by every team they played and finish rock bottom. I thought they weren't going to take a single map. They did take one in their last outing against who was it they played? Was it K23 on the last day, was it? No, Namiga. It was Namiga. But anyway, they were battered. They lost every single game. And what was also hilarious was the players were putting up looking for team on their VK pages while the RMR was going. In fact, ahead of their final game, they were so demoralized, but also they're so cynical. Let me tell you, one of the players during this game, ahead of the Na'Vi game, said so nice of Na'Vi to refuse to change servers. And they put up a screenshot and they had 30 ping, Duncan. 30. Not 300, 30. Do you want to know what
far from CS region, isn't it?
Do you want to know what ping they played on when they beat them 16-2?
Gonna guess higher than that, maybe 50 or something.
No, the same.
Oh, the same.
Exact same. And didn't say anything.
Of course not.
So getting the excuses in early because you're a pack of cheating cunts. It's the psychology of a cheating cunt. We're about to get roasted because we were cheating cunts, and everyone's going to know we were cheating cunts. Let's make excuses so the cretins, for some reason, that want to align themselves with Akuma despite all the balance of evidence, and because I want to stand up for the little guy, not this little guy. Sometimes the little guy is a cheating cunt, is a scumbag. So, anyway, I think it was cynical as fuck because they then went and played out the game anyway instead of forfeiting it. And they've been playing in another online cup together. So they're looking for team things. You know, I think it was just bullshit to make it look like, oh, the community's hating on us so much. Remember that when these guys come back with either another team or what is even more likely, another name, they actually will change their whole name, like that fucking CEO who said, well, you know, I only placed one bet and I only won a penny, but I am now retiring from esports for real, definitely. Like, when all these cunts come back, are you going to remember who these cunts are and consistently bring up that they got away with it? No, you won't.
Oh,
no, you won't. None of you care. You don't really care. It was just a Reddit thread for a few days. I do care. Fuck these guys. I hope they never get to play Counterstrike ever again. That's where I'm at. So it was good to see him get absolutely wrecked, and I think those results tell their own story. Now, while we're talking about cheaters, there was a bit of news about Hunden going on at the moment. Interesting one that we might want to read between the lines a bit here. So obviously in the Zonic report, it was reported that Hunden was their top target to replace Sonic. Which again, you do the time for the crime, but equally I don't like it when big orgs are happy to work with people who've done things like that, because what does it say about your priorities, especially given Niome was so vocal about how Heroic had cheated against them.
Yeah.
Now when it's convenient, you're happy to employ him. You know, I don't like that, but whatever. And then, of course, he isn't going to be present at Cologne. He's not going to be there. That's the report coming out. Heroic have sent the same mental coach that they sent before when they won the ESL Pro League. So Hunden's not in attendance.
That is
so I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Dude, that is just Nicola Niall in a fucking nutshell, isn't it? What an absolute rat cunt that he would have. By the way, remember, he was in no way necessitated to publicly call out essentially Hunden by that. I know he said like you wanted the players to come and see him in his office, but realistically, it's the coach that cheated. So realistically, he was calling Hunden out almost by name, but just not by name. And then obviously later he'd go, "When I joined my out," like that's what's called. I wouldn't trust this guy as far as I could spit it. Him and his children as they attended an England-Denmark game.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, mate. But no, at the end of the day, it's very bizarre. It does look like Hunden might be out of heroic. I think on the balance of evidence, not traveling with the team, being in the loop to potentially replace Zonic. I'm confident Zonic will leave. Do you think Heroic lose anything if Hunden leaves? I mean, what is your thoughts post-cheating scandal about Hunden and his contribution to Heroic? Because obviously, remember, when Heroic did start winning tournaments, that was, it wasn't that Hunden had been cheating while he was in Heroic, and it was back, I think it was back in Tricked or something. It was old school shit. It had no bearing on the results that they were getting.
I think it was Mad Lions, but yeah, it was before the Heroic team, I believe. Yeah, it was before he was in that team. The problem is this. They did look like it was a mixture of roster moves and Hunden coming back. Like, they did get to be a top team again under him as a coach. In fact, as far as I can tell, most of the time he was coaching, they were really good. So I do think he had a lot to do with Heroic. I also think it helps he was able to bring in players that he'd literally worked with and brought up through his teams. The funny thing is, I actually think if I take away all the shit with Astralis that I don't like, I think it's the most obvious person to go for. Like, especially in light of the fact, as I said, I haven't heard any of the big names have said like yes or like, yeah, I want it in on this project. Hunden is probably the best talent scout Denmark's ever fucking had. So if you're going to rebuild a Danish team, this is your best chance to get ahead of those players being in your rival team like Heroic. Just get them before that, which is what basically this guy's MO is. So I actually think on both sides, it probably even makes sense. I mean, let's be real. If there's anyone could join Astralis and it won't darken their rep anymore, it's going to be Hunden, right? So if anything, it's probably a match made in heaven. I think it's a pretty good deal for both parties.
Yeah, I mean, I might be inclined to agree. I mean, this is assuming, by the way, that the reason Hunden hasn't travelled is related to him potentially leaving. Could be something even more, not sinister, but more profound than that, because obviously there was no official statement from Heroic. I think one of the players said in an interview, we're going with the same system we had when we won the ESL Pro League,
right.
And we all feel very good about that. Which, again, reading between the lines, does make me maybe suggest that Hunden could be on borrowed time overall. I mean,
it's a little bit passive-aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, I mean, if Hunden is out of Heroic, I guess we have to judge and see what kind of Heroic we get at this competition, right? Because, I mean, they've not been great the last few outings online, not been the team that won ESL Pro League. And so they do need to get back to that because, they were inarguably the number 2 team in the world right now, but they're not that at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see if that move pays off. Now, obviously, Cologne. We're talking a lot about Cologne. Cologne's underway right now at the time of recording this. I know you love going in on ESL, so I did promise I was going to bring this to the table for the podcast.
All right.
Let's talk about all of the marketing around the IEM Cologne.
Here's the thing I will say to start off with, though. Technically, here's one statement I'll make at the outset, which is technically this is one of my favourite ESL events ever. Do you want to know the reason why?
Why?
Because normally what annoys me about ESL is they never shut the fuck up bragging about the crowd. So,
Yeah, it's all worked out. No, but I mean, listen, like obviously Cologne is a great part of the calendar.
Oh.
The problem I think we've got is, for me, the way it's been marketed, and like I know this is just going to make me sound like such a grouch and a grumpy arsehole, but like maybe I just am. Maybe I just have turned into a grouch and a grumpy arsehole. Maybe that's where I'm at. Maybe I've become so jaded, even things that I wouldn't even have noticed 12 months ago just bother me now. But the way this was being sold, it was everywhere. I even got an email. We're back to LAN.
Oh yes, yes.
And they've really pushed it to the point where I even wonder if it's a broadcasting talking point and they have to mention it at least once per map, because it has come up. I've watched, I've got to watch as many of the games as I physically can. to do my job over at Deserto, and I've heard it mentioned every map that I've watched, no matter the commentator. And of course, we're back to LAN. It's back to LAN. We're back to LAN. It's like this recurring thing. And the reality is, we're not back to LAN. We're not.
We're in the halfway house right now, aren't we? I know, yeah.
Like, I mean, and there's the official CSGO account tweeted out.
Yeah,
CSGO.
I get what you mean now, because I wonder what you meant by that. It's essentially the sense that, like, it's not just saying we're on LAN. They are sort of doing it like, free at last. In fact, it's over. It's all over, guys. The war's over. They have oversold it a little bit.
It's not.
I know.
Because, look, listen, here's the thing we've got, right? So, first of all, people aren't even playing in consistent conditions at this event.
Yes, that's true. Because all the people locked up. By the way, there's another thing that's actually fucked up as a side tangent. You know, because of that fucking CISRMR, some of these teams are now just like in hotel rooms playing. Like Heroic's case is even worse because someone will test positive. So like they might, no joke, just be playing playoff games from their hotel room. How are you going to say back to LAN? They're in a fucking hotel room.
So that was problem number one. And I mean, even getting to this event, right? Because I know Carmack was doing like an update and saying we've now officially got all the players on site. Not so much about the way that it had to go down and who, you know. So like Navi had to like fly through fucking Italy, I think, because of relaxed protocols or something to get to Germany. And like you said, they're in a hotel, they're in quarantine. So some teams are playing in a studio without a crowd.
Yes.
Some are playing in a hotel room.
Pretty meaningful context to bring up, right? Yeah.
Now, I'll also just add as well a little bit of hilarity, because I know you pointed it out. Team Liquid are obviously at Cologne. Maybe not
for this one for you. Go on, set it up.
Yeah. Maybe not for long, based on what happened today, which was interesting because in the interview I did with Elige, he said, as far as he was concerned, the only teams he felt that could beat them were Gambit and Virtus.pro. So, been handled by Nip, but whatever. Anyway. They got sent, because what they do at ESL is they want to make you feel, especially if you're a Louvre team, they want to make you feel special and loved rather than part of just an axis of evil that wants to dominate esports and survive at the expense of everyone, even the ecosystem. And so they send you out these like little, when you get to your hotel room, laid out on a bed is a goodie bag, here's a fruit bowl, and here's a letter saying, you know, thanks for coming, essentially. And they always make out that this is part of their on-point, skin in the game. We know who you are. You're like a family to us. Package. And so on the Team Liquid one, they made a notable error because, and I don't know if you want to bring this up, Sam. You can definitely find it on Twitter. It's on this
one has to be seen to be believed.
It's on
so bring it up.
Twitter.
Yeah, bring it up. It'll be on my time.
Basically, they listed all of the players and the coach, Adrian. Obviously, Eric Adrian Hogue, NA legend. But they made a slight error, didn't they, on their Team Liquid write-up, didn't they?
Sam.
Yeah. They made a... so talk us through, Duncan, what happened here as the esports historian.
Yeah, the great thing about this is, as Richard says, what they do is they send you this letter, and the tone of the letter is literally... First of all, it's everything I hate about corporate culture, because it's someone who isn't ESL speaking as if he is the monolith that is ESL for all of esports history. And because you have this relationship as a player with ESL tournaments, he's talking as though, like, as Mr. ESL, I just want to extend my heartfelt feelings about how much I appreciate you again playing in my tournament. And so in doing so, right, what this guy's done here, every single one of them, by the way, tends to be sort of like almost close but no cigar. Like they always have the tone almost right, but the details are always too vague. Like put it this way, they wouldn't even go to the level of being like, and welcome back Fallen. Let's hope you can turn this stadium. You won't even need to turn it into a library because it's already empty and you're already in the library. Like they don't even know that level of like trivia. Like they couldn't even work for a betting company asking questions of players. So on this one, right, they've put it all there. They've put Dear, and then they've put Jonathan Elige, fuck off that name, Jake Stewie Yip, Michael Grimm Wince, Gabriel Fallen Toledo, Keith Naf Markovic, and then they put Dowran Adren, some Kazakhstani names. So what they've done essentially, guys, is They've literally seen that Adren, the coach of Liquid, is called Adren, and with literally zero fact checking, they've Googled his name. They're putting Adren CSGO. They've gotten the legendary Kazakhstani player who, at no point in time ever in history, has played for a North American team and definitely isn't a coach. He's an active player right now who was top 4 at the Star Ladder CIS RMR and is still an active player and won a major, by the way, for PGL like 3 years ago or something. So this is 4 years technically. So that what that means is this, guys. The guy who wrote the letter literally doesn't know who Adren is. That must be a fact, by the way. It is inarguable. You couldn't make a mistake because here's the thing. To even Google it, you would have links you could click that could tell you he never played with Team Liquid. So he not only doesn't know who Adren is, but he is then even worse. Like, this actually makes me want to feel like throw up. Pretending to know who these people are. He doesn't. He's just a fucking player. I don't even know who this guy is. Michael Parsons.
Mate, he didn't write it, mate.
He didn't. I know. He's fucking told some intern.
Literally, this is an ESL intern. Might never have fucking, done anything in esports before. Just some office person. But that's the grift, isn't it? That's the artifice of it all. So yeah, I agree with you, mate. It's like for a company that prides themselves on the details, they get a lot of little details wrong, don't they? I'll also add...
even the ones, by the way, that don't have obvious meme material, like I say, it's all just mega vague. Like these, remember, Nate, this is my job as well. These are the players because they play in the open circuit of Counterstrike. You have a million things you can say about them. Like if Shock scores or something, you can go in of all the clutches you've won, and of course, when you won that major with that, they never have any actual real details that make you think they know who you are. They don't even look, no joke, like they've even Googled your Liquipedia. They don't even look like they've done that. Like it's always the most tenuous shit ever. Like this garbage about Team Liquid here, where it's just going like this. And it's now time to #ride or die as you look to retain. Like, fuck everything about you as a company, ESL. Because here's the worst thing.
Turns out DMX was in Team Liquid.
I would actually vaguely respect ESL if they just build themselves as they are. Like, look, we're an enormous company that want to dominate the space, and we think we are the best, and we do know what's best for you, and so just take it. Instead, they always have to pretend, but we're also the plucky little guy who makes up our industry, and we just want you to know we think you're swell. Like, fuck everything about you, Carmack and ESL. You are just scum. You're just scum, mate. And I'll never forget this, Carmack. The reason why you look like absolute clown shoes doing shit like this is because you literally were someone at Excess Reality in 2002 saying Counter-Strike is a game where people just hide behind boxes and spray each other in the back. It's almost like your entire career in Counter-Strike has betrayed that sentiment that you held your entire life until it became financially no longer viable for you to think that way, isn't it? All I'm going to say is this, Carmack. I just let you live your life and it undid everything about your personality and everything you stood for. You did it for yourself. I didn't need to do any of it. I just stood back going, more popcorn.
I knew we would get petty grievances with this podcast, so I knew we would. One thing I'll also say I'm annoyed by in this is, like, have you seen their Reddit presence? It's become sort of almost riot-esque, if you've noticed.
Like appears like the second you say anything about the event that he thinks is inaccurate or whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
we definitely play a lot of defense. I have to say, though, much like Riot, it works. I get why they do it, Richard.
Yeah.
Fans literally, if me or you go in and correct an actual factual inaccuracy about our lives, we'll just get abused and downvoted. If these dickheads do it, people will be like, oh, thanks for being so transparent, as you obviously just shill marketing shit down my throat. Like, sound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so just on the front page right now, they put in a new UI that had a slightly different way of displaying the health meters, and people obviously didn't like it because it's different, right? And basically, they changed it. So every day there is a day one feedback thread for ESL posted by an ESL employee with ESL flair that's been granted by the mods of the subreddit, right? Then in those threads, Carmack usually, but other employees are there talking about it, and it's just a panda fest. They just basically like do whatever they think the consensus is, which of course is terrible in the long term.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Well, no, because like it's meant to be your vision. You're meant to execute a vision. It can't just be what people like. Do you realize? I saw a thread the other day, also on Reddit. Why are there no YouTube streams for Cologne? Right? And loads of people in there going, yeah, it's a nightmare. Fuck Twitch forcing ads down our throats, you know, and you can't even watch it embedded anymore. Why are there no YouTube streams? Oh, it's because ESL have signed a deal to exclusively broadcast it. Well, yeah, fuck them, fuck Twitch. I want to rewind back in time to 2016.
Mental, innit? I can't handle this.
Right? When me, Duncan, and other people who can see further than the end of our nose.
It's literally about this. If you go back enough years, there'll literally be episodes about this, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right? Where basically we said at the time in 2016, listen, giving Twitch a monopoly isn't good. Deferring everything to Twitch because you want to use the word PogChamp and it have a little picture come up. A literal hate crime now.
Badly, I know, yeah. Listen, the fact that a lot of you 4 years ago said, I just want to PogChamp, that's aged badly now, guys.
Literal hate crime now. You basically allowed an Amazon-owned company who, much like ESL, poses being totally down with the CS scene. We totally love you gamers. Respect. They don't. They love money and profitability. And when they realized they couldn't foist ads down you because of ad block, they took away all of the tools that would enable you to not have to watch an ad because they've got to have deliverables. Now, listen, from a business perspective, by the way, Twitch streamers and Twitch viewers have took the piss on that for years because Twitch streamers don't run ads because you don't make any money and interrupt your stream. You'll generally get a drop in viewership. Twitch have never forced the deliverables on anybody. They've always assumed that people understand this isn't a free platform. They have to make money. They are providing you awesome technology that enables you to make a living. There has to be a quid pro quo somewhere, especially when you consider how the people further up the food chain don't even share their fucking Twitch sub money. And on top of that, if you sign up and you get Amazon Prime, you get a free sub, and that free sub that costs you nothing gives the streamer money. All of these things were all going to be problems. But regardless, there was plenty of opportunities for other companies to come in, develop their tech, and where we're at now, be viable competitors. You all rallied against YouTube when ECS, Face It's League, basically was doing stuff with YouTube instead after being essentially a partner with Twitch. You said, we don't like YouTube. You can't PogChamp on YouTube. YouTube had better tools back then. It could stream at a higher quality. It could pause real time. You could rewind and watch things you just missed in real time. It did all of that back in 2016, but you didn't like it because you wanted to PogChamp, right? That's how short-sighted you fucking morons are. Now we're here and you're going, why isn't YouTube doing any streams? Not to mention, by the way, when other big broadcasting deals come in, and I know Facebook was cheeks, I know the tech wasn't there, and you couldn't make comments without signing into your real account. Fucking yeah, brilliant. Try PogChamping when everyone wants to see your real name. No one wants that, right? So I get it, but ostensibly, that was still a good thing for the industry, that you could sell exclusive rights to a rival to Twitch to create competition, and you all pushed back against that as well and said, no, even Valve waded in on that one and said, if you're going to broadcast a Dota major, we want you to do it on a streaming platform the community approves of, paraphrasing, which is utterly ridiculous because you're cutting your other business partners off at the knees to pander to pleb fans, which is the biggest cancer in the industry right now, actually. All the corruption, yeah, but when you add corruption to pandering to plebs who just respond to pandering and go, yeah, do whatever you want. Yeah, you congratulations, everybody that railed against YouTube. You've helped set the industry back. And there you are today. Why is there no YouTube? Yeah, I fucking wonder why. I wonder why. Because of you, you dickhead. You. Yes, you. Not, oh, it's like Reddit is a bunch of different people. No. Consensus. You upvoted it. You approve of it. You, even if you just wanted to see the world burn, you enabled it being on the front page, and companies look at that front page and take it as gospel. So yes, you dickhead. You. There is no YouTube now.
By the way, I also appreciate that the exact same people who say that line do say it like a bunch of NPC zombies. Like, you are aware that Reddit is a bunch of different people. Like, you're all saying the exact same thing. Literally, by definition, you're saying the exact. So it doesn't that go against your own point about like sentience, the idea, and also, as you've always pointed out, because it's just accurate, the entire mechanism of the website is
consensus. It's a consensus machine. So anyway.
Isn't it?
So yeah, the whole thing has just been ridiculous. The ESL marketing and everything else. Right, anyway, fuck it. I was going to talk about the play-in, but now we'll save that. Save it to next week. Yeah. Let's get into viewer questions, because I have no idea how many there are, how long they're going to be.
True.
I think we've covered all of the big stories, all the bases. I haven't missed anything out. That's glaring, have I?
I don't think so.
Had a good win.
All the big ones.
Yeah, excellent. Right. We'll get into the Cologne play-in next week, because Cologne will still be running, so whatever. Right. Carv says, gentlemen, a short view forward to the future. The year is 2025. Na'Vi are finally about to turn the corner next year with Blade. Alu and Red Bulls is still the funniest shit.
It's already good. Keep going. Keep going.
Carv always drops good ones. Alu and Red Bulls is still the funniest shit CSGO fans have ever heard.
Pretty good. That's pretty good. Keep going.
And esports has finally shed itself of the suffocating shackles of competitive integrity and taken its rightful place as a WWE-style esports entertainment product. Who has risen up from the swamp of ethical business practices, declared conflict of interest and moral obligations, and taken their rightful place as the Machiavellian CEO of all esports, and why is it Anders?
By the way, I will say as well, I even love that he tagged that angle, because that is one of the things I couldn't handle. It's like it had literally been about 4 years and people were still going on about fucking Alu and the Red Bulls. Like it was a throwaway moment in like 2015, and you all were talking about it like, bro, remember the Red Bull? I want those Red Bulls for the camera. It's like, oh, it's not even that funny anymore, is it?
I know.
Who would it actually be though? There's the question I have for you actually along those lines. I'll reframe it to be better, because he made it as a joke at the end, obviously. If you actually had to pick someone, Richard, you know, like I'll give you here's the premise for you. Here's the movie setup. Like, you know, the classic old school comic book trope that goes like this. Well, of course, Lex Luthor and Superman hate each other, but what if they have to team up to beat a bigger foe? You know, some cunt's going to ruin the whole universe. Or in the comics, it would usually be someone wanted to kill Superman. So Lex Luthor's logic was like, but that's what I'm going to do. So you had to save him to try and kill him. You know, basically, if for some reason you had to back one of the cunt businessmen in esports, it was like a battle royale. You had like everyone from fucking Blizzard, Riot, Nicola Nyholm, fucking the guys from Akuma, every cunt you can think of. Who would you actually pick to like emerge from this like fucking shit fest of just all the worst business people battling? ESL can be in there. Who actually do you think would make it out?
It's very hard to say. I mean, listen, I see a lot of these like ex-Riot people going on and doing very well for themselves, despite being associated with a company of their dubious reputation. In fact, you know, what was his name now? What's his Riot name? Whalen.
Oh, Magus.
Yeah. Magus, yeah. He was right, so he works at another gaming company now.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure which one, but he left Riot some time ago. And he, of all people, right, had the audacity as a very senior high up member, like in what they call the D20 at Riot Games, had piped up, and basically someone had retweeted one of your cringe tweets or whatever, I don't know, and fucking said, one of the best things about not being in esports anymore is not being adjacent to the bro mindset like that. And then somebody replied.
It was actually the person who did the tweet. I know you're talking about. It actually was another fucking famous Riot person. I'm trying to think who it was though. Who was it? Let me think. I think it was one of the guys who was like I think it was a guy who was like a game dev or something. It was like quite a famous like Riot name though. That we also sent the tweet you're talking about. Yeah.
But anyway, so somebody said, yes, you mean Richard Lewis and Thorin.
It was the guy, it was Morello. That was who did the tweet. The guy they made the
Morello, that's one thing I'm not made, just Morello.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
So I was like aghast because he replied to that saying right on both counts. Now, I don't think I've said or even embody anything that you could even call like toxic masculinity or bro science or whatever. Like, you know, I'm an openly fucking bisexual fucking drug fiend. Like, I don't understand where do I fit in to that paradigm? I don't think I've ever said anything like that. I encourage people of all backgrounds to fucking just stand up for yourself. Be who you want to be, and don't let people fucking push that down, and be true to you, because you get one go around. That's pretty much my philosophy on life in a nutshell. Do what the fuck you want, and as long as you're not hurting other people, let everyone else be damned. Fuck their judgments. So I don't understand where he got that from, but he invoked my name. And so I was like, I just replied to him saying, it's incredible that you can identify someone like me as being like a toxic masculine guy. You couldn't identify any of the sex predators at your own company, which, by the way, you still haven't publicly called out.
No, because here's the reason why, dude. This is what I even said in my reply. Like, this is the worst thing about Riot, because it actually says something dark about American culture. Because obviously the problems that Riot's having, by the way, aren't specific to Riot. They're just what happened when you have enormous companies with bro-ass idiots like that run them, right? This is the darkness of it all. Is when it all happens, Richard, it's like exactly at the Riot case. You get a couple of people maybe get thrown to the wolves as like the sacrificial lambs. Like, this fucker, yeah, he was the one who did it. But they all pretend like there was never any systemic element to it all. This is what you have to believe this Morello guy. You have to believe he was one of the head designers for years of this game, one of the main people in the team that you would be interacting with, keeping happy, involving in meetings. And basically, the literal offenders in these potential sex crimes we're talking about must literally have been his friends and colleagues and peers. Literally. Like people he was around for years. But as you say, not a fucking peep ever, even when you leave the company, to say about those people, but you'll pipe up for no reason to shit on me, Richard. Enough said. That is your actual like moral landscape. You find
also just underlines the mental illness as it relates to Twitter, right? Like me not liking one of your tweets. That tweet is a greater crime than an actual sex crime being committed by someone who works at Riot.
That's the level these guys are on, for sure.
That's where they're at mentally. So anyway, I sent him that reply, basically saying if only you'd been sharper and better at identifying real targets. And he said, yeah, bad faith response aside, there's no bad faith, mate. I'm being 100% accurate. You are, on some level, whether you want to accept it or not, complicit. That's the end. And you still haven't called it out, and you still haven't decried it. And so, you know, I can't believe anyone can work at a company that's that cult-like with that corporate culture and not even hear rumors. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. That beggars belief about everything I know about humans and corporate culture and cult-like behavior. So it flies in the face of my entire life experience, right? So anyway, he said it is the biggest regret of my life that I didn't catch these people and do more about it.
So that, but okay.
So why have you still got time to fucking focus on? I mean, me, I wasn't even a topic of conversation. Like I wasn't, but you basically, here's what happened. You hated the fact that there was one person, or well, a handful of people, me being one of them, that would like just stand up to Riot's bullshit. We didn't want a t-shirt, we didn't want a Timo hat, we didn't want access, we didn't want to come to your fucking events. We didn't care. We were happy to sit back and point out all of your flaws. And it turns out these weren't just flaws. These were actual just disgusting fucking atrocities that you were doing. And we talked about it for years. And we were the ones that held your feet to the fire. That's why people like that don't fondly remember me. It's got nothing to do with toxic masculinity or any of the buzzword bullshit you have to say because you work in Silicon Valley. It's not real at all. So anyway, yeah, these rioters, they all go to big companies. I mean, think about Light. What a fucking joke that guy is. And he works at Facebook, which is, to me, unbelievably sinister. A company that already has loose morals when it comes to your data and your mental health. And they've taken somebody who literally used the game's development systems at the biggest fucking game in the world, biggest PC game in the world, and now he gets to work at Facebook with access to people's information and data. That should fucking terrify people, but no, it doesn't. That's just another regular passing. So these rioters are basically like fucking cockroaches. I mean, they're like cockroaches in multiple ways. They're like cockroaches in the sense that a cockroach doesn't die even when you cut its fucking head off. It just doesn't even, you know, they are just built to survive. They live in shit. But they will survive, and they'll never, and they actually like it in the shit, despite anything they might say publicly. But also as well, the other thing about fucking cockroaches is when you think of a cockroach and therefore its survival, overall things, kind of like association, a cockroach has no moral center. It can't afford to have one. Morals and values will get you killed. And it might be right that you die for them if they're important enough. And that people with values and morals will be willing to make that sacrifice and assess at the necessary time whether or not it's worth doing. A cockroach doesn't think like that. A cockroach thinks, how can I get to the next pile of shit and fucking eat my fill? And so, yeah, those rioters that all come out, not one of them say anything bad about the company. There was another one the other day getting into it on Twitter. I'm like, why haven't you called out any of these fucking predators? Why haven't you called out the managers farting in people's faces? Why haven't you called out games developers, executives you know and associate with that are crunching people into an early grave to make subpar games at overpriced, prices foisted onto consumers? You say nothing about that. You're all workers of the world unite when there's some tanky in the fucking chat. Right, but you say absolutely nothing when your colleagues are crunching workers into oblivion to make shit. You don't say anything about it. So yeah, I'll just tell you, if you ever worked at Riot, chances are you're going to do very well in American corporate culture because you already stand for nothing and will do anything to feather your own nest. Here's a question: which musicians are some of the best lyricists in history? Now, this is an easy one for me.
Okay. Lyricists. I mean, I'll have to say, people probably know this if they watch the show. I think Noel Gallagher is fucking amazing at writing lyrics. Not least because he's got that quality where they're just super simple, but they just work. They just hit the right notes. So there's what I'd have to put him right up there.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me.
Roger Waters as well from Pink Floyd. I think he's pretty banging as well.
Yeah,
Can't really go wrong with those.
He's a good shout. For me, Leonard Cohen, probably. Across any genre, because his work stands up as poems. If you were to read a book of Leonard Cohen lyrics, you wouldn't know you were reading song lyrics. Sure. You would think you were reading unbelievably high-level poetry.
Yeah.
So Leonard Cohen's great. If you want to do a bit of hip-hop in there, Nas is sick. Aesop Rock is another one. Great lyrics, although I wouldn't say I was a massive fan of the music, because I think he suffers from it being a bit underproduced.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, everyone says it's Bob Dylan. I'm not.
I've never got that really.
Nah, me either. I don't
really feel it. I'm not a big fan of his music generally, mate. It's okay, but it's whatever, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah. So for me, probably if you're going across any genre, it's definitely Leonard Cohen for me. Reykjavik on Steam says, as a big fan of the upcoming CIS team Akuma, are there any ways to play CS where both teams have lower than 30 millisecond ping each so that they both don't lag out and lose in a one-sided stomp? Yeah, crazy, isn't it? If only we had the tech. Sure, ESL will figure it out. Jerky's Minion asks, would you rather try K's cooking or run FaZe Clan in the midst of the current drama? I couldn't eat K's cooking.
Problem is, this is how I actually know I did grow up as scum. I've watched some of those videos. Obviously, some of them are totally ridiculous.
And you've thought that's not bad.
Some of them, I'm not lying, could have eaten that 20 years ago. The ones where it's just beans and something like that, that's not even a big deal, yes. And listen, the problem British food in general is it never looks appetizing, does it? But some of this shit is just the sort of thing you could have eaten after for some mates.
Probably he's eaten equivalent shite.
Yeah.
Growing up poor, you just ate what you got.
Here's the difference. Eating K's cooking looks slightly disgusting. Working with FaZe Clan is ultimately morally disgusting. So I'd have to eat K's cooking in that scenario, wouldn't I?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because at least if you run FaZe, you have a chance. But you see, that's the other problem, isn't it? With the pervasive corruption in esports. And it's just corruption in general and just American culture in general. They all say the same thing, don't they? Well, it'll be different under my regime. I'll get in. To change the system, one must be within the system. No one changes the system.
I don't think that's possible, personally.
Yeah, no one changes the system from within. Yeah. It's like you either have to revolt and basically tear it all down from the outside. Once you're in, it's like you go, right, guys, big changes. Oh, thanks, that's a latte. Anyway, as I was saying, keys to the company car, right? Yeah, but as I was saying...
keys you get changed in the end, right? If you stay.
Yeah, of course you do.
Exactly.
Of course you do. It changes you. So, yeah, probably what would happen is I'd go into FaZe and being, right, head's going to roll these crypto. You made how much? Especially because of my fucking current career. I just love this industry, from the it's not even a joke.
You're like, wait a minute, you guys have a plan to fuck the entire industry?
Yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah,
you
totally.
You bastard, I'm in.
Yeah. Like totally, it would be. I'm just there now. Because unfortunately, you see, much like when you talk about changing systems, I've been within it. And what I realized was, because I'm writing this article, I told you about it a couple of episodes ago, that, the party's over. I realized I've been one of those guys steering the ship to the rocks of the mainstream, because I kept thinking when we get there, we get to go on the island and it'll all be okay. But no, so I was actually cheering on esports demise in a lot of ways, because I wanted to grow it so much, so passionate about it being a legitimate thing. And so I've been one of the cheerleaders of the apocalypse, essentially. But you cannot fix esports from where it is now. It cannot be fixed. There's too many backward steps you would need to take. So you either have to destroy the industry entirely or just get out, because it's not going to be what you want it to be anymore.
Yeah,
it's done. Zumba says, if you two were to recommend a series for someone who had never watched a 1.6 match, what would you recommend, assuming the VODs could still be acquired?
Sadly, the latter part is almost certainly not going to be the case. Like we only really had. The problem is this: we had streams in the last years of 1.6, but sadly they were all owned 3D, so they're gone.
Yeah,
and then ESL might have put the odd one up, but the majority of them aren't going to exist. So, unfortunately, the VOD part won't exist. So I'm just going to have to pick out like a great series in history or whatever. So let me think. I mean, I always said my favorite one was this one from IM Shanghai between Na'Vi and Fnatic. It was like the classic lineups from 2010. It's a pretty good one. That was a good one.
2010 was an amazing year for 1.6. For me, because 2010 was the year that Na'Vi were the dominant force, and they had an amazing rivalry with MTW throughout that year.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I remember in 2010, it was DreamHack Winter 2010, MTW Na'Vi in the final of that, and they played it in the Dream Arena.
Oh, okay.
But that's a great match. That's a really good match. And it was because the rivalry had been going on all throughout that year. They'd played each other multiple times. It was pretty heated, actually. That's famously the one with the picture of, I think it's Senya, like flipping off Zonic like that when he stood up and made a clutch. So, which was very like, ooh, like at the time. That's a great series. And you're watching, the best in class. I think personally, the 2010 Na'Vi, it for me is the best 1.6 team of all time. But they're going up against MTW, which would certainly be in that conversation.
Oh, a very good team as well, yeah, for sure.
It's got a bit of everything, for sure. Which one did you pick again?
I picked Na'Vi Fnatic.
Yeah.
So similar rivalry, two of the top three teams.
Yeah, I mean, was that the WCG? Because
no, this was like an IM that was in like China. It was actually the one where Six had died on the way to the event, so it was like a bit mad by that.
Yeah,
it was amazing though.
I was at the Antwerp Esports Festival then.
This even ties into the story about Carmack, because this is an event I worked at remotely in Germany with Joe Miller as a commentator. When we came on, this match had this unusual detail where, because they held it at the China Joy, like fucking like their E3 in China or whatever the fuck, right? After map 2 of this amazing series, they had to come on and have Carmack come on the broadcast and go, we're going to have to play out the third map tomorrow because the venue's closing. Because he's Carmack, he just span it as, but this is incredible. This is like history. This is like Wimbledon when they have a game get rained off. We're going to have the first game ever that's going to be played over 2 days. And I even said on the broadcast, well, wait a minute, though. You're making that sound like a good thing. Like, this is going to be really bad because whoever loses the third map could point to this and say that's the only reason I lost. So, and what's great is Carmack had to sort of eat shit on air and go, well, I guess, it could be. And the second they went off air, I had a fucking producer guy run into the room, a German guy, start screaming at me, going like, how dare you ever say something like that on camera? How fucking dare you? After we bring you in and we pay, like, it was outrageous, man. And I remember just thinking, this will go in the memory banks. I don't know when, but there'll be a moment where this will come up. And I think there were a few after that, weren't there?
People don't realize as well, like, the ESL you get now is a lot fluffier
they chilled out a lot, mate. A lot.
Yeah. Back in 2010, I mean, shit, like, I can't even begin to tell you, like, working as a journalist, holy shit, the run-ins I had with ESL down the years. They rang my bosses when I was working at Ever Media, like trying to essentially disappear a story about non-payment of prize money. Like, literally, can you imagine doing that? That just being something you think is a reasonable You know,
mate, one thing I've even said this to Carmack. One thing I could never fuck with that he did in his career was he himself was a journalist who was the journalist, like in your position, going at Angel Munoz, talking about press abuse. And then when he became the actual product manager of IEM, he just turned around and did it to everyone else. The exact same shit. And his logic, by the way, for real, really was like, well, why would I not do it now that I'm the one that benefits? Like, are you kidding me? So by your own logic, it was all justified what Angel Munoz did. Like, what are you talking about, mate?
I know. No, but it's the thing. This is where it's like I look over at what Carmack's doing now, and obviously he's got a great quality of life, lots of status in the industry, future Hall of Famer, you know, has given a lot to the space. I'm sure he's very happy, you know, because he took the money when it was there. He took the out and then just assimilated into corporate culture immediately. You know, that's what I was supposed to do, I think. If I wanted to enjoy esports, I'm sure he does. But yeah, man, ESL were a fucking nightmare back then. Chingu, if someone was visiting the UK for the first time, where should they go for the best meals?
Oh, that's the of all the things, meal. Now, here's the thing. The problem is this. Like, London cannot be overestimated in terms of it does have every type of food. Like you could basically get anything you want there. You'd have to know where you're going, but you can get anything you want there. Like, that's one of the reasons I've always thought that whole thing, like, British food is garbage. Like, in London, I can find more than any fucking, like, pick any German city you want, any French city, I'll get more food in London. So, okay. But if he means, like, to go somewhere for, like, something traditional, that's a hard one, because I'd have to say something like maybe go to Yorkshire and have like a roast dinner or something. That'd be the obvious one to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be good little, like, you know, pubs, gastro pubs, you know, that serve up like phenomenal traditional British fare, which unfortunately, traditional British fare is like a lot of cultures. It all goes back to what was popular for the proles in medieval times. So a pie is a very filling meal, because you can get away with scrimping on the meat and you essentially fill up on the pastry. A Yorkshire pudding is just a domestic equivalent of that idea that we don't have enough meat to go around. We supplement the meal with this eggy, yeasty, you know, product that's very filling, nutritious. Well. Yeah, and straight fire when you have gravy on it. Yeah.
But so, if you've never had that, definitely have that when you go to the UK. Have a proper Yorkshire puddings with gravy.
Yeah, for sure. But for me, like, obviously, the traditional British cuisine, by and large, isn't all that great. And certainly for foreign palates, it's an acquired taste. I get it. I get why so many people criticize British food. I won't have it from the Germans.
I know. Of all the people.
I will not have it from you. I know. But, you know, when the French joke and call us le roast beef and insult our food, France is one of the centres of great cuisine. So you win. All right,
Italy, I'll give them a few.
Yeah, sure.
A few of them can have
it. But what I will say is, obviously, you wanna get yourself a good traditional curry. You want to come to Birmingham to do it. Birmingham have the best curries in Britain.
It's literally not a troll, in case someone thinks Rich is joking. The curry in England is better than any other country in Europe. That's it.
By a million miles. Because of the long-standing relationship, with India, and obviously our you know. So to put it in context, in Birmingham, there's a sort of area called the Balti Triangle. For those that don't know, you might have heard of a Balti before. You might have bought one from the supermarket. Don't do that; they're garbage. But a Balti it was invented in Britain. It was the traditional assimilation of Indian cuisine for British people and Indians alike in, you know, cross-cultural, you know, parts of Birmingham, so we could all enjoy it. And it was called a Balti. It was cooked a special way. It's native to Britain. That's what people don't realise. And so there's a part of it. There's a part called the Balti Triangle in Birmingham. And the council in Birmingham employs people to go around and check these restaurants and make sure they are serving Indian food to a set standard. And it cannot drop below that standard or you lose all your accreditation. They take it super seriously, as they should, for food is a part of culture. And so, yeah, anybody that wants a good Indian meal, you come to Birmingham. I've had curries all over the world, me. And unless you're having them in India, or, you know, and again, we're talking specifically about Indian and Pakistani food here.
Yes.
Unless you're having them domestically, nowhere in the world gets it right like they do here in Britain. It's that simple. So yeah, come up to Birmingham, get to the Balti Triangle, get yourself on Lady Pool Road, loads of great curry houses there, and tuck in. You'll have a great time, and you'll thank me for that. Right, last question. Dancer Master says, what would you think about adding Olaf Meister, as he's playing now in his comeback for FaZe, into the NIP roster over the youngster that they bring in from the academy?
I don't hate it in the sense that, like, I do think they also in that team need like a true veteran. Like, let's be real, like Device is their most veteran player. Like, yeah, it sort of works, but I mean, where's like the real vet? Like, where's their MBK? So I wouldn't hate it in that sense. Like, they've got enough pieces in Nip. I think you could probably fit in the squad. I don't mind that move if he wants to play.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a tough one because this LNZ or Liners, as they're calling them now, so everyone's doing like Liners clutch tips and stuff in the Twitch chat. Right. But, you know, he's done all right since he's come in. He hasn't set the world on fire for me. And I don't really think this is in line with what they call the NIP system. They never shut the fuck up about over at NIP. I think bringing in an experienced veteran player with his own ideas probably is the last thing they want to do in terms of the direction they want to go in. But in terms of, do I think it would boost the team? Absolutely. Would I like to see Olaf Meister, even this Olaf Meister, play alongside Device and Rez? Yes, absolutely I would. The problem you've got now is it sort of makes Olaf's drop-off that he had for a year, where he was actual washed-up dog shit. It makes it seem inexplicable because he had that last tournament before getting his contract ending with FaZe, played really good there. He's come back in the team now and looks like a very competent support player who definitely can hang at tier 1 Counterstrike. I don't know why he couldn't do it for a year. I don't know what was going on. I think it's terrible optics. As soon as your contract's up or you're getting benched, suddenly, all right, guys. Yep. Now then, guys, how you doing? Back on road and playing. Like, what the fuck's going on here, mate? So, yeah, I don't like that. Could he do it in another team? Who knows? FaZe have seemed to give Olaf a lot of leeway. And Carrigan certainly seems to have given him a lot of leeway. But honestly, yep, Dancer, I don't hate that move. I guess if I was Nip, I'd make that move if it was available tomorrow for the right price, sure. All right, there you go. By the numbers, it's all done. We even shoehorned in some petty grievances and ranted and raved. We'll be back, obviously, next week. But before we go, shout out to the sponsors, of course. Go check out .com, all of that content I was talking about, all that interview content, a reference. It's all on their YouTube channel. CS, go check it out. Go like and subscribe, and they'll be producing more of that. Obviously, NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Sign up there, and you can get up to 70% off for a VPN. I get loads of feedback about that. It's a sponsorship that probably people give me the most feedback about. Everyone's super happy with the product. Never had a bad word saying, Richard, you dirty grifter bastard. Like, I like it. I use it. Sam uses it. So, you know, we stand by it as a great VPN to use. And obviously all of our patrons. Shout out to our $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Marcus Kumpar, Hannah Maru Alice, Benakagi, Carv, Tobias Bernasconi, Flacksmith, J-Dubs, Cathal, Benedict, and Will the Weed Wrangler. And of course, our $50 patrons, Reykjavik on Steam, Sard Sawar, Watch Doge, BP420, Alex C, Miss Alcoholic, Zarathenia, Echo, Rez, Lonnie, Gerhan Kaya, Fursock, Goody Woody, Norwegian Clamai, Bakin, Carter, Airhammer, Can of Pasito, Dancer Master, Adam Ox, Nolan, Judas, CMAC 1991, Zumba, Petty Grievances, Tim Frost, Bukowski, Frankie, J. Ray, and Robert Johnson. Can't believe how much that's actually swollen in the numbers, mate. That's crazy. Thanks so much for the support. That was By the Numbers. We'll probably be back next week. Maybe earlier, maybe later. Who knows? We just play it by ear these days. So stay tuned to Twitter. We'll see you then. Until then, take care of yourself.